matchup. CJ Entus. Spenu Sonic Boom. Botte Kokalkon League of Legends Champions Korea Spring 2016 Round 2.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back for another day of Champions Korea. My name is Achilleos. With me is Papa Smithy, and we are here in Week 8, our last day of the week because we have a short week, and just one match today as well. So we're going to be wrapping things up for the week before IM Katowice takes over.
Exactly. Of course, everyone's going to have one eye on the massive international tournament. Not many of those, but that will be happening after today's broadcast. In fact, the Korean casters are pulling some sort of marathon, 12 hours for them because they transition straight into that IM broadcast. You and I, though, going to be a quick one. CJ Entus versus Spenu Sonic Boom. Now,
well, that's not going to be a quick one.
Exactly. Quick one is going to mean we got one set today, but no guarantee these are going to be quick games because both these teams have been guilty about pulling out some of these games and just finding a win in the late game. Spenu especially, poke comps into team fighting has unfortunately been kind of the name of the game for Spenu.
Yeah, and we saw both of these teams 2 days ago, and it was a very long day. 6 games, most of them extending beyond, I think every game extended beyond 40 minutes at least, and some of them got close to an hour. So very long sets from these teams. So hopefully not quite going to be like today, but you never know, and it's more than likely going to happen. But we'll go ahead and take a look at the rankings after the previous games that happened. Of course, we had a very stacked set yesterday. KT Rolster moving up into second place past Jin Air Green Wings. Rox Tigers still setting very comfortably after that 2-0 victory over Longzhu in first place.
Yeah, Rox Tigers and Spenu have been bookending the season, but unfortunately for Spenu, that's their 0-10 record. Now, last time out, they did win Game 1 against CJ Entus in the first round robin, but CJ's done a whole hell of a lot of developing since then. And it's the second game win, right? It's winning a match. That's the story for Spenu. They want to do it at some point this season. Again, this is one of the more winnable fixtures. And they're going to start playing against the top 5 pretty soon.
Yeah, 7th versus 10th. Very possible for Spenu here. But, of course, the addition, as we take a look at the roster here of BDD, Faker 2, or as Robin puts it, the second coming of Faker, is playing, of course, today. Daydreaming not going to be in quite just yet. We don't know. We might see him later on. He is listed as a sub, but we will be starting with the standard roster of Luntara, Bubbling, BDD, Kramer, and Mad Life.
Yeah, clearing that up for anyone at home. There was some conjecture about Daydream's eligibility to play. He is an official sub on our rosters, so can play when the team deems him ready. Of course, would have only started scrimming with the team a few weeks ago, so going to work him in. Bubbling has been leveling up. Again, he's still not top half in terms of champions junglers, but has been inching forward. And BDD, we got a taste of BDD. Played 3 different champions. Azir in particular, one of his true trademarks, looked really good. Still more data points required. CJ Entus 5-5, looking to go positive for the season with a win today.
Yeah, this would be the place to do it, and maybe the time to bring out Daydream if you really want to, since it is against 10th place Spenu. Of course, running Soul Flawless, Sasin, Nuclear, and Secret today. Whether or not we see Soar come out later on will be yet to be determined.
Last time we saw these guys in the Rift, there was a certain Nautilus mid. They ran a tank squad and didn't really convince, you'd have to say. Flawless, I thought, had a good performance when he was playing, I believe it was Kindred in one of their games.
Yes.
2 days ago. He actually was going and contesting enemy jungle buffs rather than living up to the buffless name that, of course, has ironically been attached to him. He needs to level up. He needs to show us something. In fact, the last time these two teams, I mentioned already that Spenu won. That was actually off the back of an MVP level Lee Sin performance from Flawless, but hard to see him getting Lee Sin again today.
Yeah, we've seen that taken away from him as well. So
hell of a lot.
Yeah, respect for the Lee Sin, so not likely going to be able to pick that one up. But of course, we have been seeing a lot of other very aggressive junglers coming out. You mentioned the Kindred did come into play, and of course, Elise and Italy have both been out there. And we have a lot of very aggressive jungling, especially yesterday that we saw. So maybe we'll continue that trend into today. You can see so far though, Spenu is not able to pick up a set win yet 1 win versus CJ in their last set, and more than likely going to be the same thing here if it goes to 3 games.
A more damning stat, a win against Longzhou and then 8 consecutive game losses since then. This is an interesting graph.
Yeah, this is a little bit well, it's correct, but
it's incredibly misleading because
Yes.
BDD's only actually played the 1 set, didn't die in games 1 and 2, so of course it's quite an inflated KDA against Sarson's 1.8, 15.5 for BDD. Draw all your conclusions from this, CJ fans. You'll feel much better about yourself.
Yeah, he's just the best. He truly is Faker 2.
Highest KDA in the league.
He hath risen.
Well, I mean, 15.5 would certainly be the highest KDA in the world, even better than Adrian. This guy is truly the god of League of Legends.
Yep. And he's going to show us that today by letting Zed get through the pick ban phase.
Well, I don't know if he can control that. Spenu, though, maybe there's a gentleman's agreement. You guys don't ban Lee Sin, we won't ban Zed. They're both energy users. They're both, why not? Why not? Let's do it. We'd appreciate it.
I don't know who comes out on top in that scenario.
I think the fans come out on top because we get to see the much vaunted BDD Zed. Those BDD highlight reels, they're often basically Zed highlight reels. It's his most played champion in solo queue this season. He's always had a wonderful win rate on it. Will he lock it in if it's unbanned, though? Will we see a blue side first pick Zed? These are questions I hope to find the answer to very soon.
We're about to get into the champ select right here. BDD, during his MVP interview, did say that if Zed was open, he would play it. Whether or not that means
is that really the venue to talk about future game strategy, though?
I'm just saying, if whether that means into a blind selection, who knows? But then again, we did just see a blind Pantheon mid yesterday, so all bets are off. I think that the blind Zed for BDD would be much more reliable.
Look, a blind Zed, a blind Monk, either of those would be excellent for our viewing pleasure. Lee Sin and Zed.
Can't
for
argue
Spenu
with that.
and CJ would be exciting picks, but sorry, no blind Monk, Lee Sin banned away.
Yeah, which means that the Zed could very well be coming out here from Spenu. They say, oh, you jerks.
We should call our jets on the Zed. Whether we'll actually see it locked in early, it'll be quite the salvo to blind pick Zed. Teams have done it. Saw a blind pick Pantheon yesterday, so I guess anything's possible.
Everything is possible after that one. Coco just tilted off of the face of the earth and said,
I don't even want to...
You know what, guys?
I don't know how to conceptualize it. I don't know if it's tilt. I don't know if it was thought of as a good pick. There's a lot of things going on there. Definitely want to be a fly. Wish I was a fly on the wall to hear about the selections there. So far, Zed hasn't been bad.
Yeah.
We'll spend and play with fire here.
They very well might try. This is game 1 here.
CJ was guilty of that. They didn't ban Lee Sin in their first series. Of course, it was a long time ago, and Flawless made them play.
He made it through. It's going to be the Corki that gets banned away.
Audible gasp from the crowd,
Here.
seeing that Zed's available.
It's
It's certainly
the
going to be
instant
hovered
hover.
at least.
Oh, I am so ready for this to be locked in right now. You can see BDD just smile on his face as he talks with his coach, saying, guys, please, just let me do this. I need to make a statement.
Now, there is the reality. We'll wait and see if the Zed's locked in. But I feel like if you're on the blue side as Speno, you have to ban Zed because then you have the 5th pick Zed potential coming out.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
if he actually does lock it in on blue, that would... And if he dominates with it, suddenly every future draft you have to think, even on the red side, do we have to ban Zed? Will he first pick it? So maybe the mind games are worth it. A dominating performance in this game might actually have reverberations for the future games of the season, but smartly, not going to see a first pick Zed. It's going to be left there. It's going to be Poppy for Intara, one of his best champions.
Yeah, and now actually something that we didn't get to touch on here. Gangplank did make it through the draft phase. We saw this make it through when Hippo played it just the other day, and it was very devastating despite the nerfs for 6.4. So did not get banned out this time. Just the Nidalee, Lee Sin, Lulu, and then the Callista Bard Corki, of course, which are all becoming pretty staple. Bard against Madlife after his last performance.
A lot of power
Hard to leave
champions
that up,
left
but-
up. We've already seen the Cogmore Moldova, the Gangplank, as you mentioned, was a really good performance from Hippo. We conceptualize him as a tank-only player, but was by far the best member of that Kongdon Monster squad that couldn't quite pick up a crucial set win.
Yeah, he almost solo carried his entire team. But the Alistar and the Kindred are going to be the lock-ins here. So Kindred really coming back in a big way this week so far. And I think it's safe to assume now at this point it is going to be a Devourer Kindred. It was the question, is it going to be Devourer Warrior? We've seen 100% Devourer this week.
So when we saw Kindred enter the competitive sphere, it was all about Kindred, Warrior Kindred, going for the early power spike, dueling early, and you can still duel early with the Devourer build, but it was very much initial power. Devourer Hunter's Potion is completely investing in sustain and looking for future benefits. It's been crazy that we've seen such an early ganking jungler going for the Devourer build, but it's obviously very popular in the Korean region. We've seen no warrior in chat Kindred all week.
Yep. So Braum going to get locked in here, as is the Elise. So again, BDD just keeps hovering over this Zed, reminding Spenu, like, this is available, I can pick it if I so choose. But just drafting for the rest of the team, Sassen hovering it himself. That would be a very interesting snag.
Sassen is known, especially on the red side, for his off-meta picks. We've already seen Quinn mid this season. We've seen Nautilus mid as recently as the last time he played. So we actually have seen some last picks for top lane, whether it was Soul or Saw, but it feels like Sassen definitely one of the few players that can go off. Goes back to the Nautilus, at least showing the champion.
I want to hope that this is a Nautilus top into the Poppy, since it is a pretty good matchup. And
we can tell you one thing.
Not mid again.
It's still a Nautilus flex pick, even with Alistar locked in, because Nautilus flex pick has always existed between top and support. Even with Alistar locked in, Spenu have now shown that this is a flex pick, so mind games continue.
I mean, it's, you know, what are you going to do as Zed as you scale into the game later and later against the Nautilus?
It's worth noting there is a lot of good options against Zed. Alistar already can pop the ult. Kindred has ult as well. If it is Nautilus mid, good luck assassinating him, and they could just lock in Lissandra with the last pick, which has always been one that Spenu have enjoyed. So this would definitely be a confident Zed pick rather than a comp Zed pick, so I have to feel like we're going to see something else. Seeing where CJ will go. Ezreal's available, and of course that has been Kramer's staple pick all season.
Yeah, has not died in his last 3 games. Earlier this week.
The Azir was by far the most impressive of the 3 champions we saw from BDD. Champion that saw so much play in 2015, almost none after his last round of nerfs in 2016. The 5-0-5 really carried his team in game 2. It would be a blind pick mid. He's going to blind pick Azir.
It's bringing the Azir out. Now the hover straight back over on the Zed for Sassen, which would of course put Nautilus up into the top lane.
Now, I have something interesting to share with you, Achilles.
I'd love to hear it.
Talking to pros about what brings Vel'Koz out into the meta. The one thing I heard was if Azir ever comes back, Vel'Koz will be the champion to counterpick against it. So this is actually, I mean, Sassen is synonymous with Vel'Koz. Not necessarily winning competitive games, but winning lane. And this is seen as a good lane matchup. So more than an outside chance, it might actually be Vel'Koz time again, but a lot of other options available for Spenu.
Yeah, he's still got plenty of time to flip through a couple champions and see what he wants to go for.
Could be picking for top as well, it's worth noting.
Very well could be the last 10 seconds coming down to it. It's going to be the Varus actually coming through in the end. So a lot of 80 damage coming through on the side of Spenu. Pretty balanced on the other side of things here for CJ Entus.
CJ Entus have a really nice balanced comp. They've got teleport flanks coming in from Poppy, good engage on that side. It's going to be mostly Poppy for engage, of course. Always the off chance with enough ward control that Elise can get engaged. Azir Sex, I guess, are an outside possibility on the side of Spenu. It's definitely not a true siege comp, but plenty of siege provided mostly from Varus. A good front line for triple AD between Nautilus and Alistar. Fun balanced comps, no one-note comps. There's a lot to go on. I think the early game matchup, the early game jungle matchup, Flawless versus Bubbling, Elise versus Kindred might tell us a lot about how this game goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to see how is Nuclear going to build Sivir moving into this game. Is he going to go for the Essence Reaver, or are we going to see that Infinity Edge come out?
You know, it's concerning that on patch 6.4 we don't know for sure the answer to that question, but Prey at least did us proud. And built lots of Essence Reaver first Sivir yesterday.
If Prey didn't do it, I would have to accept the Infinity Edge as the superior build, but for now I refuse. Essence Reaver is the way to go.
CJ looking to go 6-5, looking to get their game score even and their match score ahead. So this is a very winnable week. Remember, Kongdu Monster into Spenu. They're expected to win this week. The season only gets harder for Spenu.
Yeah, well, we're going to find out if Spenu can do it when we come back. It's CJ Entus versus Spenu, Game 1.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을
All right, we are on the Rift here for Game 1. Audience seems pretty well split, but maybe leaning a little bit more in favor of CJ.
CJ always been one of the most popular orgs in Korea, of course. Originally Azubu and MIG before they went to the CJ name.
Yep.
Massive brand here in Korea.
Very deep history for this team.
I
And
noticed.
MadLife especially, one of the most recognizable figures pretty much in all of League of Legends.
And the only link to that MIG name that's been around Korean League of Legends since the inception, since they were on the North American server before the Korean server even existed. Sarsen rocking the Malzahar Varus skin. Varus Swiftbolt, I believe it is.
Yeah, looks like taking a look at these Keystone Masteries, double Warlords coming out for these AD carries, so they did read the patch notes and know that that did get a significant buff.
It's just sustain that you don't itemize for. You start with a Doran Blade, you maybe get a Vamp Scepter 4th item completed, so it comes in a lot less. We're seeing Spender here invading, and no extra vision for CJ. They're going to be surprised.
Yeah, they will find Untara and Bubbling in the jungle here. Smites the Wolf, so they do get the Spirit out there. Pop Bubbling up in the air, takes a bit of damage down below half HP. He's not going to lose too much here, however, but Nuclear did pick up, looks like both of those mini wolves, so be a bit behind in CS here as they rotate
Elise
through
is
the
actually
jungle.
one of the champions that you don't mind taking that level 1 damage on, just because you have the Spiderlings to tank aggro. In this case, also you have a jungle follow, and the top laner can tank aggro, but either way, going to be just fine.
BDD already aggressing onto Sassen here with the Sand Soldier, putting in a bit of damage, got that level 2 first. We'll really have to keep our eye on this. He did a pretty fantastic job on this Azir 2 days ago. So want to see if he can have that a repeat performance, perhaps. Meanwhile, we can see this is going to be Flawless and Soul rotating in to try to take the blue buff away from Bubbling.
It will be spotted by the Wolf Spirit, unless it's timed out. It might have the exact time. In fact, like it looks like it's timed out. So jungling around the top side, the map makes sense, though, because we have vertical jungling coming through. You can see 4 members of Spender around the top lane, and then mid laner and mid.
So just double invade here, and we should just have these towers both going down right about the same time, so pretty standard stuff coming out so far. Nothing too flashy or cheeky.
Never assume the standard with Spender Sonic Boom, but
It's very true.
so far so good on that regard.
Standard as it can be.
Isolated mid lane matchup for Varus. Remember, Varus was the counter pick, or at least they had knowledge that Azir was bind picked. And chosen answer is not so good in the early levels. Again, Varus, his laning phase is very strong, but mostly post 7. Around level 7, level 9, get 5 points into the piercing arrow, and you can clear from long range and poke. Big story I was talking about yesterday is that with the nerfs to Vel'Koz, and no one told Kuro about those nerfs, but still, his position as the reliable wave clearer has got a lot more contenders now that there's been the nerf on Victor's E. I feel like Varus is one of the champions that's going to jump up and play, and at least based on the sample size this week, Varus has been picked, banned, in probably at least 80% of games.
Yeah, he's been very popular amongst the teams this week. Edge was the first one, I believe, this week to pull him out, and it ended up getting banned away from him in the series following. So, it might just be something that we're going to see continuing on in the coming weeks of round 2. Bubbling, though, clearing out his opponent's jungle, denying a couple marks from Kindred. Did take that Scuttle Crab earlier. Bubbling, though, is going to find Secret. He was a bit far forward. Let's see if BDD can get in here. The Pulverize comes out immediately. Headbutts him actually into Sassen. Doesn't look like there's going to be too much of a follow-up. We'll take a bit of damage here.
In level
from
4
that
Sarsen
passive.
doesn't have kill potential onto Bubbling, so once again Bubbling takes some free damage, but is alright.
Yep, but this is going to be Flawless coming around as well as he catches him at the Raptors. Flawless can put down a decent bit of damage. Looks like he's just going to be able to take these Raptors away from Bubbling.
You call it decent damage, but Kindred dueling at level 3 is massively, massively powerful. When you fight in your W, you just get so many salvos of your Q and auto attacks that there's no way to trade if you're Elise. If you get the jump, absolutely you can burst down a 3-6 Kindred, but when you see her walking up to you, you get the hell out of there.
Yep. So far, both teams just playing pretty well mirrored to each other. You can see the push going on the top side for CJ. Bot tier 1 looking to go down as well in favor of Spenu. A few more members there, so they will be able to burn through that tower faster than CJ Ensis. Oh, Sassen, though, going quite low, but BDD, no more mana. Can't follow up on that kill they potentially had in his grasp. Sassen, though, holding on to both summoners, so not panicking in that situation.
Yeah. Some amount of greed about clearing these minions, but he knows that he's not going to be able to hold the wave. Azir, with his health advantage, will push in eventually.
Yep. And this is the classic trade that we were seeing 2 days ago. It's going to be the Rift Herald for first dragon of the game, which is very much going to favor Spenu outside of the gold that CJ gains.
Your option is to take it when you're taking that first turret if you're CJ, or give up an advantageous neutral advantage over to Spenu Sonic Boom.
Yep.
Especially with the power of Dragon 2 and 4 going up, you definitely take Dragon over Rift Herald. You probably would have before, but it's definitely seesawed much further. The pendulum has swung dramatically towards the Dragon with the 6.3, 6.4 changes.
Yep. Just means that CJ needs to be ready for that second spawn to keep Spenu away from being able to pick that up for themselves.
No interesting items completed. It was a first rotation Cull, now turned into a BF sword from Kramer. So Kramer's actually been one of the players who have most favored Cull. Cull got a couple of buffs a few patches ago, basically more immediate stats and more gold. So just a more attractive proposition. And if you know you're opting into a lane swap where you won't be punished for that early purchase, just means you're going to get that mid-game power spike that much earlier.
Yep. Not a bad purchase. We'll have to see what BDD's going to do. Looks like he's going to go straight for the Nashor's Tooth as well.
Again,
he did before.
Big issue. We saw him do this in a matchup against another magic damage dealer, and that was a bit confident. That was a bit cocky. But when you're against Sassen, and again, we're talking about the pick of the Varus in this situation, there's no hybrid defensive, offensive armor ability power, armor mana regen purchase that makes sense currently in the state of the game right now. You need cooldown reduction to go against as Azir, and so Morello and Omicron, Nashor's Tooth, those are the purchases that make sense. This Receptor obviously makes no sense, so it's very hard to itemize against Varus' physical damage poke. And it's another reason that makes him a very attractive pick as well. This is some really extended pushing.
Yeah, very much so. We can see CJ trying to get in here onto this tower, but it's already being burned down. Massive wave of minions to back it up as well. And Tara going to try to clear this out as best as Poppy can do. Kramer, meanwhile, does get this bot tower, so if CJ holds on to that, it's pretty advantageous for them. Soul has it having to walk back. No one going to collapse in on Kramer quite just yet, so he's still safe. Now Bubbling trying to get his blue buff, but it will be taken away by Flawless. Flash onto Bubbling. They boot him backwards. Sassen with a piercing arrow. Nice repel comes through. He's got nowhere to go. Straight back to 3 members of Spenu. Flash over the wall. He does get exhausted. Sassen almost getting killed by these Sand Soldiers as well. Has to retreat. Yet again, though, holding on to both summoners. So both teams playing quite well in a panic situation. Bubbling with nowhere else to go, having to burn the Flash. That's about all that was expended from either side.
Big story, though.
Flash and exhaust.
The big story, though, Achilles, the fact that the defense from CJ held. They realized they could take the turret. It was only a Nautilus who wasn't in any place to actually clear waves. And they sent their 3 members to go and defend the inner and end up with a massive trade. They don't even give up a kill, despite once again being outnumbered. Big, big win for CJ, and you can tell it in the gold. The gold is almost purely because of that turret take.
Yep. That is Kramer getting a pretty decent CS lead at the moment over top Nuclear, but he's got a couple waves crashing into him right now, so he should be able to make up for the majority of that. But you can see Kramer almost has his Warhammer completed on top of that BF sword and the call. So it's quite nice as far as stats go this early on in the game, just 9 minutes in.
Even though it's a level 7 Varus, he has absolutely no mana, so they need to rotate more members here. Speaking of rotations, 4 members from CJ.
Yeah, they know that Flawless is on the way, and they have wards in the jungle by that wolf pit, so they know that Nuclear is here as well. So just chipping away at this tower. Flawless gets caught by that cocoon, takes a bit of damage. Lamb's Respite, of course, is available, so not too much kill pressure going to go on for him or Sassen, but good pressure being applied by CJ.
Lucky thing for Spenu is with the Sivir, she can just rotate mid, and Varus and Sivir both have massive wave clear, so the wave clear on Spenu's side is very good. Why it really hurts that they lost that extra turret, because you think they'd be winning these turret trades, not coming up behind.
Yeah, so a little bit of overstaying there in confidence by Spenu, thinking that they could get that tier 2 in the top side and just leaving Kramer by himself. Soul not able to arrive in time to clear out the wave and stop that tower from going down. So nicely played by CJ so far. Of course, no kills coming out. So that first blood, that first big fight really could spin this game in a different direction. For right now, CJ doing a pretty good job sitting 1.6 thousand ahead.
And the big win for CJ has been that they got this purchase on the Cull very early on the Lucian. Nuclear's buy timings just seem to have been so much less desirable than Kramer's, because Kramer's buy timings have been basically rushing the Cull, going to lane to get the second turret, and then picking up a BF sword, whereas Sivir, at 11 minutes, is just sitting on the Caulfield's Warhammer and Boots. If you saw the Cull, you should be buying as much power as possible and then going into the 2v2 and trying to punish the greedy investment banker approach to laning, but instead, feels like Lucian has got the advantage everywhere, and then it's just going to have the Cull to mean that in about 5 minutes or so, he's going to have a lot extra stats compared to Nuclear.
Well, if these last 2 days have told me anything about how this game is going to turn out, the team that is scaling is not going to get punished. They will do quite well, and then the other team will win in the end.
That is,
sorry, Samsung.
that's been kind of the way that multiple matches have gone. And the other thing you should have learned is that a lot of turrets down in top and bot, but the mid turrets, when we're talking about Varus and Azir, unless we see
We'll get to those in 20
a
minutes.
successful gank, you're right. It feels like 35 minutes has become the staple, not 15 minutes.
I was going to say, not at 20 minutes, in 20 minutes.
Only
Teleport
two
coming in behind Kramer, though. He's going to get pinched here by Nuclear. Dashes in, just decides to fight Nuclear. The calling comes down. Teleport coming in as well from Untara. Now they turn face on a Soul, but Flawless is joining the rest of the team. No one really here to help out. Kramer's still going forward, but Sasson is here. Flashes forward, still gets the first blood coming through. Secret's going to go down. Looks like Kramer will fall. He does. Sasson finishes him off with the ultimate. And that is going to be the fight, but overall 2 for 1 in favor of CJ, and maybe now in a good position to go ahead and pick up their first dragon of the game.
Kramer just held his mind so well. He realized that he had a minion wave pushing behind, so there was an excellent teleport opportunity.
Yep, coming around the back side here. Mad Lion has to dash away, however. They do not want to dive too deep in here. Flawless takes a lot of damage. Ultimate still available, however. Looks like CJ just going to go ahead and finish off this mid tower.
Make us eat our words. It's not 30 minutes, it's 12 minutes. But that was all about Kramer holding his head. He realized it looked like a pinch, but because he had a minion wave with him, excellent opportunity for Untara to just teleport on the Poppy and divide threats. Better target focus, they pick up the 2. And then because Sasson had to take the most defensive route back to mid, he wasn't there to clear waves despite being level 9 Varus. They take the turret, they're going to take the dragon. CJ picking up everything in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, and good decision making by Kramer to just go straight into the enemy's
Flawless
face and
needs
just
to
fight
help.
them. Yeah,
Okay.
he throws down the Lamb's Respite to try to kill this one. Is it going to be enough? Yeah, with the heal. Of course it is. So they will go ahead and get that Rift Herald, but it has been the first dragon now for CJ, so good pickup by them.
It's also a really long cooldown used just to get a couple of extra seconds killing.
Yeah, that is not
that
a
Rift
short
Herald.
cooldown at rank 1.
150, I think, something like that. So could be some CDR runes. Some junglers do run 10% flat CDR for faster clear.
Yeah, Flawless just has to make sure that he does not get in a position where he would need that ultimate, before it comes back up.
That really does pigeonhole you when your Hunter's Machete devour a Kindred, because now you're saying, well, I'm not really team fight ready and I'm stacking, so I'm going to stay in this jungle and be back in 2 minutes.
Yep. See you guys. Try not to die.
Well, Spenu have had a lot of struggles with that this season, so
Yes, they have. They've been rather unsuccessful when it comes to not dying.
or wildly successful in dying.
That's true. That is the...
Glass half full, Ilias.
I think this glass is about to spill over.
I think the glass spilled over about 10 games ago.
Fair point as well. We can see if Spenu is going to beat the 30-minute mark as they get ready to push in toward this tower. But of course, those Sand Soldier auto attacks are going to be able to pierce. So BDD should be able to take these out.
In the off-lane matchup, Soul does have a CS advantage. Has the Zerot portal very early too. Poppy will struggle to deal with that portal when it's been put down, but so far saving. There we go. Going to put down the Zerot portal. Bit of a strange place to put the Zerot portal when there's no turret to pressure in that area, and he's staying in lane as well.
Yeah, I guess he's just trying to... Actually, I don't know. I don't know what he's trying to do.
I don't know why you'd put a Zerot portal there just now.
If I have it, why not use it? Bubbling, though, maybe in a bit of a bad spot. Actually, didn't have any vision there. Good flash away from Sasson's ultimate. Will keep him alive. Mad Life going really deep in here. Has to use Unbreakable. Try to mitigate some damage, but does get burned down to half HP. Kramer not quite following him on his coattails, as he might have thought that he was.
The other strange thing is you might think, okay, putting down the Zarok portal to create a lot of map pressure, and then use the teleport, but teleport's still not available. You can see
The minions are dying.
the minions are dying before they get anywhere near the enemy turret. I think that's just a bad Zarok portal usage. There's no other way to say it.
It
And
will keep the lane pushing against CJ, but it's just not getting much use out of it.
It's nice that an item's not been added, but, it's come into the meta that does have a bit of skill cap about where to put it. So, unfortunately, Soul not showering himself in glory with that particular usage.
Suboptimal Zerat portal usage. We need the new statistic.
Suboptimal Zarok portal sounds like some PSA that gets out there.
Do you suffer from suboptimal
Zarok portals? I really hope not. The doctor didn't say anything about that on the last visit.
Yeah, well, you might want to get re-examined. Your soul certainly
boy.
needs to be. Oh, this could be a very aggressive play by Madlife as he flashes forward for the Glacial Fissure. Untara from the backside stuns him in, pops all three up in the air. Lamps was bright, keeping it alive for the time being, but BDD comes in hard, gets a double kill, and just like that, CJ just trying to blow this game wide open. Maybe finish it before the 40-minute mark.
Really decisive. They knew that Nuclear on Sivir had no way to respond. It was going to be a 5v4 at best from a Spenu perspective. Poppy showing up behind Avaris, always a great spot to be, and Sarsen dies. With both his summoners up, it's going to be a second turret in mid, and CJ just piling on Evan, just one after the other in the first 20 minutes.
Yep, really good stuff from CJ. Playing very cohesively.
It's the shot calling, right? It's the fact that they can say, Sivir's top, can't respond to this, even with On the Hunt being popped to level 1 On the Hunt. It would have taken Sivir ages to waddle over to mid, and 2 people were dead before she could ever react.
Yeah, really good stuff. Let's take a look at this replay here. Madlife just going so ham on
And it
the
looks
back.
crazy, right? You're like, why is he initiating? But again, the minimap tells you the story. Sivir's still with the mini-wave, doesn't respond anytime during this fight. It's just saying to his team, back, back, back.
Yep.
There's nothing I can do. Poppy showing up around the back of an immobile mid laner like Varus. The results, 2 kills, a turret.
Yep.
Very nice shot call. Veteran shot call, I'd even say, from CJ Entis.
Yep, just really good ward placement there on the other side of that wall. Untara just able to pin him straight in. Very good stuff from CJ. Clearly playing as a unit this time around.
So the Zarok portal should work in a situation like this, where you have a minion wave coming in, you put down the Zarok portal,
Yep.
Alistar and Nautilus look scary, and then 380 carries take the turret. Other option is to put it close to this inner turret down bot, and then once again go for a 4-1 or a 5-0 in the mid lane. Right now, Zarok portal hasn't been activated as far as I can tell.
No, it is. It's down by the red buff
Okay.
in the lower side of the jungle.
So they are doing good map pressure.
Yeah.
So this is a much better use of Zarok portal.
Yeah, and I also kind of like the placement there because as far as the Fog of War goes, you can't entirely tell where it is placed. It might look like since it comes in the Fog of War near the tower, kind of looks like it might be coming from that Krug brush.
But you see what it's
But-
causing, because the
Yeah.
only person with the wave clear to clear it is Kramer or BDD, so one of those two has to go. Suddenly, they're not able to react to the Rift Herald because they don't have teleport themselves. Really nice play, and this is how Zarok Portal can warp games. It was smart that he had the Trinket Ward, just popped it in there, suspecting it was at the red buff, and pleasantly rewarded.
Yeah, so that will be Rift Herald number 2, I believe, for Spenu, but it's going to be the third dragon of the game spawning in a little bit, and Tara just going in on Soul. Not going to be able to find any kill pressure whatsoever, and CJ in perfect position. The recalls come through from Spenu. This is going to be a free second dragon for them.
It was the first dragon for Spenu after the lane swap. 2 in a row for CJ Entis. They go for a 4-1. They're going to have that burn onto the turrets that can be so powerful.
Yeah.
They spent this whole game in top for some reason. Not wanting
Maybe
to
he
group,
wants to be a top laner.
but it's only a Sivir comp. You're supposed to press R and run together. Not really. I mean, if you think about it, 2 people are running. The other 2 are running backwards because they're Kindred and Varus, respectively.
Maybe he just wants to push the wave so hard that the minions kill that tier 2 tower.
He doesn't even have Static Shiv and or the Hurricane yet.
He's at least got the Essence Reaver, though.
That's true. Already improving.
And that's all that matters.
Guys, don't know 6.4 critical strikes. If you get a crit on your first auto, and when you have Ricochet active, all the other autos will crit, which means your wave clear is delicious.
And your mana regen is very constant.
Not an irrespective thing on Sivir, who does go through a lot of mana. Specifically, she doesn't have the refund come through from the spell shield.
Yep. You can see, though, Spenu grouping up here in this mid lane, trying to get some more damage on this tower. Looks like they should be able to take it. No, this calling comes out. Going to catch 3 members on the sidelines. Kramer takes a bit of damage. We'll have to back up a little bit here, and Spenu are continuing the pressure. BDD throwing up those Sand Soldiers, going to try to burn through these minions and put a lot of damage down onto both Secret and Flawless. Just chugging up on that potion, trying to stay alive. Soul gets caught by the cocoon, but no follow-up going to come of it.
So our portal's down again,
Yep.
but it's quite shallow, so will cause a build-up. But again, you're forcing Untara's action. That's what Xerath Portal's doing. It's about forcing suboptimal lane assignments. Now that he's finished the Iceborne Gauntlet, Untara's going to have an easier time dealing. Does find it. Will have his way with the portal. Eventually.
That sounded filthy.
Nope, this is a family-friendly broadcast, Kilios. Mind out of the gutter, please.
Oh, God, that was disgusting for a second. But we can
Swamp.
see Kramer he was doing a good impression of Nuclear,
he had
going
his
up to
way
the top side.
with the Xerath Portal. You enjoying that? Good stuff?
No, it's not. Anyway, going back, Nuclear straight back into that top lane. Big surprise. Going to continue pushing out the waves, because that's all he seems to know how to do, even though he's not even equal in CS with Kramer.
I just don't see how constantly 1-3-1ing with Sivir leads to a late game where Spenu has an advantage. You look on the side of CJ, they have better engage. They have 3 frontliners, depending on where Madlife is positioned, but 2 flexible, 2 frontliners, 2 backliners, and a person who can either peel or chase. Whereas Spenu has engage, but not really an engage comp. They're much more about sieging, so 4-1 or all 5 members, ARAM or 4-1, but not the 1-3-1.
Yeah, well, we got some action to the bot side now as Kramer comes in, uses the calling onto Soul, but he has that. He does have that dredge line to Spider-Man his way out of harm's way. So no kill going to come out of that one. Untara using the ultimate as well. Kramer dashing over the wall, has a red buff to slow out Soul, grabs the wall, but there's no tower there, has to pop the dredge line. Untara coming straight back in. Can they catch him? The flash forward, the slow coming through, one more hit. There it is. Untara with a ranged attack will finish off the Nautilus. But meanwhile, Spenu does group in the mid lane, takes down that tier 1 tower finally. It's at the 23-minute mark.
Spenu now forced to react. Remember, this outer turret was already prepped earlier. Kramer's going to keep pushing in. Will be too risky to push in, but now, despite having that very strong siege comp, they're forced to back away because of the pick on Soul. So the advantage is only muted. It's only the smallest of advantages for Spenu.
Yeah, very slight little pickup for them. Still down by 4.1 thousand gold. Now we can see CJ grouping around this Baron pit, maybe looking for a bait. They know that the pit's clear. Ward does come over the wall from Flawless, so they do have to back out. Madlife coming around the side as they get deeper vision. Bubbling still getting hit by this Baron, down below half HP.
Worth noting, it's a full AP build on Bubbling. Of course, some health in the Rylai's Crystal Scepter, and then Madlife has only built Magic Resist, so only really Untara's in a position to tank up Baron, so more difficult right now.
Yeah, it's like a half defensive item for Bubbling. Not going to net him too much. We can see the Xerath Portal coming right back down again. I think Untara knows where it's been placed, though.
Oh, he definitely does.
Basically saw it.
Just seems like a weird timing. Has teleport up, but it seems not making plays around the map. He also didn't have his ultimate, so didn't really want to be teleporting in without that. So looks like once again the Xerath Portal won't contribute much.
I think that's just going to be the story of the game here for Soul, as he struggles to find a very effective use for that.
But we've already seen one effective use when they set it up down bottom.
Oh, good steal away by Sassin.
Well,
Piercing arrow.
good claim, I guess, because it was their own red buff.
Well, he stole it back.
That's true. Nuclear. Once again, it had the permanent assignment of top lane.
Yep, Kramer's just going to go ahead and push it straight back, so I guess top lane is the new bot lane.
But
you
see,
just don't have supports with you.
if you want a 1-3-1, why not have the Sivir in bot lane so that she can react to a dragon fight? That seems
It
more
beats the hell
clever.
out of me.
Flawless really does not want to face check that brush.
He doesn't, but he's going to leap toward it, and that's going to be Flash Cocoon. He can't even activate the ultimate. All 4 members just jump onto him. The only unfortunate thing about that was that Madlife got the kill.
But it was really greedy. He knew that a pink ward was cleared at his red buff. He did not have vision of any member of CJ, and he's kiting towards the Baron, towards that rush.
Yep.
Really questionable. Baron's low.
Yeah, Antara uses the ultimate to knock away just the Alistar. It still goes down. The smite, of course, going to confirm that one for Bubbling. BDD goes in on Assassin, burns through him. Bubbling will confirm the kill. Now Soul nowhere to go. Is going to have to die for the team. Secret pops the ultimate. The calling comes through. Nowhere to run. Gets stunned up by the concussive blows. Goes down. That's going to be a double kill coming in for Bubbling. And CJ are just running away with this game.
Super clean team fight, specifically from BDD. Knew his limits. This game, he actually went for Zhonya's second, and that allowed him to get into the front lines, throw out the ult, and then lose the aggro with the Zhonya's. Really clean Azir play, making an argument for Azir to come back into the meta.
Yeah,
Scary
possibly.
way, given how much he dominated the meta in 2016. Just watch BDD, so low, but does go for the ult play with Zhonya's. Loses aggro on the inset. You can see that CJ's also going to pick up a third dragon. But this is just really clean stuff from CJ, all off of an overly greedy Raptor take from Devourer Kindred.
Yeah, that was just really well. That was just really well played by CJ, knowing that Flawless was going to come over to try to take that camp, and just instant. Everybody just jumped on top of him. He couldn't even use the ultimate. CJ playing very well this match.
7,000 gold up, 9-1. It's not going to be a perfect game, but it feels like basically a perfect game for CJ.
It might as well be.
I mean, they really did toil against Kongdu Monster 2 days ago, so it's nice to see them playing so cleanly.
The only tower that CJ gave up was really the mid. I mean, they gave up all three technically, but the one that Spenu really contested was that mid tower, because they just traded 2 other towers with each other. So, Spenu hasn't even really acquired that many objectives on their own terms. Antara going in though, gets a stun on the Flawless, pops him up in the air. Lamps' Spike does come down in time to save him. Secret trying to stay in that as well. Antara going to sit in that, takes a lot of damage, but BDD is just cleaning up house with this Azir. Bubbling gets grabbed up. BDD goes deep. The Azir Sec does not land. Pops the Zhonya's. And now flash away by Soul. It's a little bit of a messy fight here in this bot lane. Looks like they're just going to go ahead and back off, get the 1 kill, get the inhibitor, go back to the base, spend some gold, and heal up.
That time, the Azir Sec didn't come off. Just Zhonya's to pop the Nautilus ultimate, so he didn't take any damage.
It was a flash away by Soul, keeping him out of further harm's way, I should say.
But they got the inhibitor, that's the big story. They couldn't necessarily finish the game off that push, but lead grows for CJ Entus. And it's just a different kind of mid laner. That's the story that we can parrot. People want to talk about the second coming of Faker. It's going to take a long time. It's going to take, a half a season is probably not enough sample size to compare yourself to the best player in the history of League of Legends. But there's excitement about this team. There's excitement about this player. And his play on Azir, at least, has been to the standard that really justifies all the hype that's been around this guy since he joined CJ Entus at the age of 15 last February.
Yeah. Absolutely, I can't help but agree with you. And, like you said, does he deserve to be called the, Faker 2, the second coming of Faker? Possibly. We don't know for sure. But what we do know is that he is giving CJ a second breath of life and a chance to go to playoffs.
Look, it's definitely a title he's been given by you and by many people in the Korean scene, but it's a title that has to be earned, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So the hype for him, justified, but the title, that's something he needs to earn.
That comes with a legacy.
Well, it's going to take a while to match the legacy. CJ fans are going to be beside themselves if he can emulate the legacy of Faker.
Yeah.
The long struggling CJ fans with this name, with CJ Entus' name, they have never won champions. All their success, barring an IEM, was previously.
Maybe it's like, I'll have to hold the thought. Antara throws up the ultimate. It's not going to hit anything, though.
Goal!
Yeah. Wave gets cleared out. I was going to say, maybe it's like Space Jam. BDD.
It's always like Space Jam when
Faker,
Poppy and Nautilus are in the game.
Faker, touched a mouse or a keyboard, and it sucked all of his abilities out, and that's why SKT's not doing so hot.
Faker himself has the highest DPM in the league, so...
That's true.
Maybe it was Bengi's mouse.
Maybe it was Bengi's mouse. That very well could be.
CJ just trying to get their lane assignments right. You can see Antara's pushing in top, Super Minions pushing in bot. Zerot Portal to help against the Super Minions, though. Will do an okay job.
Trying to get through them as fast as possible.
That's going to be another free objective. Grows the gold leads 10,000 now.
Yep.
Who's going to get the anti-trigger figures? We've already seen Poppy miss with the ult.
See
He
the
doesn't
teleport. This is just going to be a TP from Untara straight into the base on the bottom side. Can he get a pick here?
Just looking for the
Stun into
turret.
the wall. Can't find it. Secret goes in. Pops up BDD, who's already at half HP. Throws out the Emperor's Divide just to keep himself alive. And the enemy's away. Still has the Zonias. Should he need to pop it? But TP burned by Untara. Not going to gain too much.
All they get is about 50%, not even 50%, 30% of the health on this mid lane inhibitor turret. Zerat Portal actually doing a good job of holding up the super minions.
Yeah, and now we'll see what the game plan is for CJ moving forward after that one didn't quite work out. Fortunately for them, unless Untara gets really low and has to back off, he shouldn't need to teleport for a little while because Spenu is just not in a position to really push outside the space too far.
Look, CJ are just trying to get the most in the minute before Dragon and Baron spawn, and then they can kite back. They've had no way for Spenu to put down any aggressive wards. They're going to have some trinkets, 2 only in the inventory. At this point, with no map control at all, I'd actually like to see Nautilus change over to the blue trinket, because who else is going to be checking this Baron, this Dragon, as these really key objectives are going to come into play very short.
Yep. Spawning about 14 seconds apart from each other. The 4th Dragon, if CJ decides to go over there, and of course their 2nd Baron of the game.
You know you're in a good spot where you can full court press 30 seconds before Baron and Dragon spawn, and then you know that Spenu has instant vision and nothing else, because they've just never been in a position to earn vision around these objectives.
Yep. See, Sam Tower does get destroyed here. But all of CJ just still hovering together around this mid lane, working as a unit. Looks like they're going to go straight from this Dragon, likely run to the Baron as well.
This is a 6.4 thing. This was 6.2. You wouldn't have gone for the 4th Dragon. It didn't really
Not
give
at
you a
all.
relevant buff, but suddenly, earning 4th Dragon isn't just the obvious window into 5th, but it does provide you with the chance to dive what is already a half-health turret in the mid lane.
Yeah.
20% damage reduction from turrets on Untara. If Untara's the one tanking, it's going to last a while.
Yeah, he's just going to be able to sit under that thing for quite some time. Secret, though, getting caught out. Concussive Blows comes through, has to pop his own ultimate, but they're still just burning through him. Meanwhile, Bumbling on the other side, trying to get onto Flawless. Untara comes in, dashes through. The Alistar does fall. So far, no one else quite going down. I'll take that back. Flawless goes down. Nuclear not going to get hit up by that Glacial Fissure, but Untara sticking to Sassin with the Frozen Fist. Now being quite low. BDD goes in, gets a huge Azir sec, but he goes down for it. This could be the turn by Spenu. Mad Light falls as well. Kramer quite low. The flash forward. The root for Untara gets slowed out by the Riptide. Has to sprint away. Kramer trying to lifesteal off these Krugs. Looks like they might get out of this one alive.
Meanwhile,
Bubbling just going straight for the bot lane, trying to take out that inhibitor. Kramer goes back in, gets a little bit of damage onto Soul, but not going to be able to find any kill pressure. But it doesn't look like Bubbling is going to be able to find any either on that inhibitor.
And with the respawns, and ironically, the Zerat Portal doing a lot of work. Bubbling can't backdoor. Some of those Azir Sec plays you get punished, and that's the truth for BDD. He went for the hero play, was punished for it, and suddenly CJ are held off. Now, there needs to be many more fights like this before Spenu are back in the game. We're watching the replay.
Yeah, everybody on to Secret here, who does go down. Flawless is getting selected out by Bubbling, but then
Speaking of selections,
they get
Flawless
split.
dies instantly without the ability to ult, and that's now you think, okay, fight's over, CJ have got this, but we just wait for the moment where BD enters the fight. He's already quite low. He takes the poke
Big
from
crit.
Varus, and basically one crit and one Q from Varus kills him, and suddenly there's very little damage left in the fight. Elise was in mid this whole time, expecting it to be a one fight for CJ Entus, and this is the result. It was a bit of parity in a game that until now had been very
yeah,
one-sided.
but here comes the TP in from Untara on the backside, dashes onto Flawless, pops up 3 members of the enemy team. Untara getting targeted out though. Looks like he's going to go down, but Soul has fallen as well. Flawless getting jumped on once again, cannot use his ultimate. Kramer finds the kill, the stun on Assassin, he goes down. BDD finds that one. It's going to be a double kill for Kramer. Can he make it a triple? Goes on the Nuclear, and he does. And just like that, CJ, after one flub fight, come back in, wipe the floor with Spenu, and they're going to win the game.
Double for BD and a triple for Kramer. Happy news for CJ fans. That time BD didn't go too Rambo on the front line, was able to fight in the back line. Doesn't have Rylai's to slow people up, but that was what everyone else doing. It was a really nice flash cocoon to take down a member from Bubbling in that case. They don't have a minion wave, so maybe
they
they can't
have
finish
20%
this
reduction.
second. That's true.
Yeah,
Even Kramer looks pretty tanky.
Yeah, he was tanking that tower for a while. So they are going to be able to, in fact, finish here as the last turret does go down. Over onto the Nexus. CJ Entis walking away with game 1.
18-4 is the final kill score. Death on both carries, but still a very nice performance from CJ. Now, this week is a confidence-building week for CJ.
Yeah.
Kongdu Monster, Spenu Sonic Boom. 2 teams they are expected to beat. They're expected to dispatch. They lost a game to Kongdu. Doesn't look like they're going to lose a game to Spenu, at least based on this game 1 performance. The real story for CJ and how good this lineup is in future weeks, because these are the 2 easiest teams out of the way first week of second round robin.
Yep. Sad stat there, though, is Kramer did die once, so not going to continue the streak of not dying after that last set. But pretty good damage share between him and BDD, both doing around 22,000 each. The big hero, as far as that goes, was going to be Sassen, who pushed about 27k. So out-damaging everybody in the game, but unfortunately not able to find the win. You can see that as the face of defeat, if I've ever seen it.
Sassen face has always been a meme since we've had Spenu in the league, but disappointing from Spenu on a macro level. They've disappointed us many times.
Yeah.
The team known to pick a poke comp and then look for fights. In this game, the 1-3-1 was so curious, and all you can say is that CJ deserved winners in game 1.
Yeah, played quite well. We'll see if they're able to do that again moving into the second set when we come back.
Where's the good and goodbye? Where's the nice and nice try?
back to champions. Your MVP from game 1 is going to be Bubbling. Had a pretty fantastic game in that first set. You hear the crowd going crazy over it.
The female corner for Bubbling seems pretty big. I believe this is his first MVP, and he deserved it. Now, one of these later fights we'll see my favorite play for him, but 4-0-10, very good kill participation. Bubbling has been so often criticized, and I think with good reason, but
He has his moments.
he has his moments. BDD's moment in this fight was glorious.
Yep. But yeah, Bubbling just playing very consistently. The catch on Kindred, of course, being a very pivotal moment for the team.
His pathing in
Right
general
here.
was very smart. This was a nice flash catch, and Kindred died so fast for
Yeah.
as late in the game as that was. I'm just looking for a specific flash cocoon that I think really cemented the victory. Let's see if it's here. Still in spider form. Now watch this. The flash
Yeah.
cocoon onto Sarsen, it looked like he was going to get away, was actually what won on that fight, because both Sarsen and Nuclear looked like they were going to get away. That meant that all the wave clear will be alive. But first Sarsen falls, that caused Nuclear to turn around. He falls as well. Bubbling with a wry smile. He probably didn't see that MVP coming, but well deserved from CJ's jungler.
Yeah, you can see that nervous little smile his teammates probably saying.
Sarsen's
Do you hear
not
all
nervous.
those girls like cheering for you?
Sarsen's not nervous.
Sarsen's asleep.
The sleeping giant of Spinner.
Yeah, I think he just went full Snorlax and just passed out in the chair.
Does that mean he gets all his health back?
Hopefully for Spenu's sake. Would have been quite nice. But for some reason, I don't think that's the case, and I think that we might just have a 2-0 on our hands. But we're going to find out, and we'll find out what's going to happen to the pick and ban this time. Spenu on the blue side. Zed first thing out the door. That's what I thought.
And when you are on the red side here, CJ Entus, the pressure to ban Zed for the blue side team is just so much higher.
But the question is, what do you do as Spenu? Because you know that BDD can play this Azir quite well, and it's not even considered a meta pick right now
I
in
mean,
most
you
regions.
don't ban the Azir. Azir's not a pick that I think you want to ban. It's a utility champion. If it's not Azir, it's going to be Orianna, it's going to be Lulu, it's going to be one of those utility-based champions. Of course, Azir provides a bit more damage, especially when you're as aggressive as BDD is on the champion. It's just nice to see that aggression from a CJ mid laner.
Yep. Of course, Corki and Kalista going to band away. Nidalee as well, again coming back into the mix. We'll see what CJ wants to ban out for their last pick. It was Lulu last time, but the Lee Sin could remain up if they don't ban it here. It's going to be Lulu, so Lee Sin does make it through.
Now, Flawless hasn't insta-locked Lee Sin every time it was available, so the only reason to leave it open, that situation, is hoping that they would lock it in and taking things like the Poppy for Intara, getting two strong picks on the red side. But with Nautilus available, it's a bit of a wash how that lane goes. Nautilus and Poppy have pretty similar impact. So, nothing ventured, nothing gained. But the Lee Sin still does loom for Flawless, which would be very exciting for us.
Yeah, that'd be a good change in pace here.
2 games on Lee Sin, 2 wins, 2 MVPs. Of course, Lee Sin still the stuff of legends.
That would be a pretty good pickup here for Spenu. Maybe change their luck around. Right now, the hover on the Hecarim. Pretty interesting selection to come in against this Poppy if they decide to lock it.
Does sound like an Untara champion. Circa week 1 of champions. We know he plays a lot. It's not going to be a first pick Hecarim, but it could be a last round Hecarim, depending on how the draft goes. Alistar available, but Braum selected first. We've seen some players say that they're confident with the Braum into Alistar lane matchup, so they're confident taking Braum despite Alistar seeming the more well-rounded support. To me, Alistar got the engage, got the disengage. Braum almost solely about disengage, unless you have the Calista to pair it with, but CJ forced to ban Calista.
Yeah, but we did see Mad Life going very aggressive with the Braum in that last game, flashing forward straight into that Glacial Fissure to try to create some fights, and it worked out for them.
And level 1, that is where Braum is just unbelievably powerful.
Which we learned yesterday.
With any AD carry, absolutely. We saw Rox Tigers give up 2 kills game 1 of that series against Longzhu because of face-checking a Braum. You need to be so careful on the lane swap. Now, lane swaps are so unknown as Force does insta-lock Lee Sin. But talking about the lane swaps a bit more, remember, we've seen so many cold lane swaps. You usually have to face-check a couple of brushes to do that. Cannot face-check Braum. So Flawless is going to extend the legend. Will this be a 3rd win on Lee Sin? Only undefeated champion. You'd have to think with multiple games for Spenu, given that they have been so far a very defeated team, and more Caitlyn.
Almost completely shut out. And yeah, Caitlyn coming back in. So glad to see her coming back into the mix after that buff that she received.
I'm always scared when Caitlyn gets buffs because Caitlyn is a very, very oppressive champion. When she's in the meta, now you're going to have 5 traps in your face, but the 650 range is always the reason. The range's never been shortened, so when she gets to that sweet spot of feeling good for AD carry players, suddenly almost every other AD carry just kind of cowers in fear because you know that unless you get the lane swap, you're going to deal with a whole hell of a lot of pain in lane.
Yep. See if CJ is able to find it here as they move forward. Just going to go back for the Braum Lucian combo again, but this time the Gangplank comes into the mix.
Not the first time we've seen Untara and Gangplank. It's a good laning matchup against Poppy. Poppy is a good lane to gank for, of course. You can turret dive if you get your jungler coming onto the Gangplank, but in lane we've actually seen Gangplanks just outright win the lane because against a melee champion, you put down a couple of barrels, suddenly the trades are going to actually be in the advantage of Gangplank, who has a lot more uptime on that ranged auto attack, or parlay, which is effectively a ranged auto attack.
Yep.
So it is a good laning matchup for Untara, keeping up the carry theme that he's been really piloting for the past month.
Yeah, but of course this also could just be a mid play for BDD. We haven't seen him play.
It's going to be a top.
I mean, more than likely, but we didn't expect to see him play Lulu or Azir as well. He did pull those out. So could end up being a mid lane Gangplank, but I am with you that it's more than likely Untara's.
It's going to be a top pick.
We can see, though, the hovers over the cannon and the Varus, so would be Saucin trying his hand at that again. Maybe a flip to the Alistar at the last second. And it will be the lock-in, so Varus Alistar coming back out. This is an extremely AD-heavy comp.
It's basically AD only.
Almost entirely, yeah.
It's AD
Very
only.
little AP damage.
It's a siege comp, but it's less of a siege comp than the last time. We had 3 ranged auto attackers last time. BDD knows it's Varus mid. You're really saying, pick the assassin you like outside the Zed.
Yep.
LeBlanc's not quite Zed, but it'll do.
Yeah, it'll do. It'll get the job done. But, does he want to just continue this Azir streak that he's been running on? He's got a lot of options available for him.
They're 1-0 up. I think it's time to see a BDD assassin. I'd be disappointed if it was the Azir. Look, the Azir will be fine. It makes a lot of sense, but stop killing people, BDD.
This could also be pretty decent into Varus, I feel.
Chosen to a lot of champions. They don't have the best wave clear. Gangplank does a decent job, but if he's behind, can struggle. Azir would give them strong wave clear. Just won the laning matchup. It's going to be the lock-in. One of the things you consider, because it's cleanse Azir, Azir does have the ability to knock Varus into the middle of a team. If you knock either Caitlyn or Varus into the middle of a team, one of them's deleted, purely physical damage on the other members, you win a fight. So it's still an aggressive choice. It's just not quite the true assassin that we're all waiting for from BDD.
Yeah, it's basically just a guaranteed flash away from them because Caitlyn, you can't 90 caliber net over top of the Emperor's Divide, and Varus has no other means of escape.
You do have to worry, though, because if it's not Azir who's initiating for CJ, obviously the Gangplank ultimate can help, Bubbling can maybe find something, Mad Life can maybe find something, but when you're talking about Flash Cocoon, you already know that once again, it's a fairly low initiation CJ comp, and if they fall behind, might be difficult to close out a game.
Yeah, I feel like for them to succeed in team fights, unless they get a massive lead early on, it's going to take a lot of layering. Cannon Barrage with a Glacial Fissure to keep everybody contained into that space so that the Azir can just burn through the calling to try to melt out.
Spenu have a very strong poke comp, and CJ have minimal engage outside of BDD. You can definitely see an eventuality where Spenu just are able to siege, and with Poppy, Lee Sin, and Alistar, what is CJ going to do about it?
Very good question. We're going to have to keep our eyes on Flawless, of course, with that Lee Sin. Currently, probably the only undefeated champion for Spenu, like you said. We're going to find out if they're able to find a win, equalize this series, or if CJ's just going to 2-0. We'll be right back in just a few seconds. Game 2 coming right up.
We'll find you acting on your best behavior. Turn your back on
And here we are, and I think this time is a little less even. I think CJ very much overwhelming support for them over top of Spenu in the crowd this time around.
So much to cheer for if you're a CJ fan, seeing BDD finally making his debut, and just the upward ascent of the team even before BDD came into the lineup. They started the season 2-7, and since then have actually got their overall game score to almost 50%, despite being in that 5-game hole after the first 4 series. So expected there to be that period before CJ started to build, but we thought that would take till this week, but it actually started about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, so far keeping a better upward movement than Longshu, who had a bit of one and then just kind of sputtered out those last 2 games that they have played.
Now we have to remember that CJ is getting these easier matches.
That's
right?
true. They are playing Kongdu, they're playing against Spinu, so when they face the better teams in the league, it could be certainly a little bit different.
It's CJ versus that middle pocket that really excites me. CJ Samsung, CJ Jin Air, CJ KT.
Yeah.
Can they push those games to 3 games? Can they win some of those series?
CJ SKT at this point.
Well,
maybe a bit of a stretch still.
I mean, that'll be fun to see, just to see BDD against Faker, right?
Yeah, that's the matchup I think everybody's waiting for.
That's the part where you can really go heavy narrative and say, well, this guy could be the next coming of Faker, and this guy is apparently the first coming of Faker.
Yeah, and they can't do what they did against the Rocks Tigers and just suddenly put the subs in.
CJ really punished in this way. You saw Spinu actually just entered lane, cleared the whole wave, and pushed it into turret. So, missing some CS there is Kramer.
Yeah, did take just the little creep. So in that one, Flawless invades, actually gets the blue buff, forces the flash from Bubbling. He lands the Sonic Wave, goes through with the Resonating Strike. Can he find the kill? Does he have the pressure? Does not look like it. But that is a huge play for Flawless out the gate here. Nice, aggressive play and dominance over Bubbling.
And that's just the buff of playing a champion is synonymous with. When you're playing your best champion, you feel like you can take the world. And even on this lineup that's done so little winning, it's been the consistent story. Give him the Lee Sin, he makes things happen. Give him meta champions that are very similar. Gragas, Elise. It just isn't the same impact from Flawless.
Yeah, definitely not. Now Bubbling gonna have a rough time moving through this jungle. See Kramer though getting back up as far as his CS goes. So he will equalize out and actually have a bit of an advantage over top of Nuclear, if not be exactly even after that wave dies.
Flawless isn't done invading.
Yep.
But
checks the red, not going to be able to find it. He thinks that Bubbling's at the crux. Not quite. Tara, though, doing a pretty damn impressive bot lane so far against Soul.
Gangplank is so good at proccing Grasp of the Undying. Gets, despite having the parlay, because it counts as an auto attack, your parlay is giving you that 3% max health steal, so able to proc it more often, so will win these sustained trades against Soul.
All aboard the sustain train.
There's no Soraka here, so the sustained train isn't able to be boarded just yet.
Yeah, last I checked, Adrian is not playing in Champions.
Does he know that?
Possibly not. He does have 2 Koreans on his team. 3.
Good old Adrian. Janna, Soraka. We don't see anybody dare play those champions in the LCK. Have very weak laning phases, so it just feels like they can be found out. And that's why IEM is so exciting, right? Because looking forward to what will be on after this set. IEM will start. Invite you guys to all go watch that, but we're going to see some of the clashing of styles, and it'll be interesting to see if the Korean teams bring back anything they see from the other regions.
Yeah, that would be an interesting mix.
Well, because we've seen no Janna, 0 Janna in Champions, and Janna's been very powerful. People are calling her the most powerful support. Again, you know, this comes around, feels like once a year, stays for a variable amount of time. Love to see what happens if you pick Janna against the Koreans.
Yep. Bubbling coming back into the shambles that is his jungle. Wolves taken away. Blue, of course, stolen away at the beginning of the game. Try to pick those up. BDD, though, by far forward. The flash, the Sonic Wave is not going to connect. Don't think he's going to be able to chase any further, so BDD will get out with his life, but flash down. You be damn sure that Flawless is going to revisit this lane and try to aggress back onto the Azir.
He tried to predict the juke, didn't find one from BDD, so nice dance moves from BDD, keeps him alive, but as you mentioned, flash down, does still have cleanse, so level 6 won't necessarily see the wombo combo from Flawless and Sassen, but Sassen actually did goes flash this game, so I think that's really respecting the very little initiation CJ have. Standard lanes, the big adaptation. We've seen very little standard lanes this week. But
Yep.
that's exactly what Spenu want. You're going to have Caitlyn Alistair wailing away on the much shorter ranged Braum and Lucian, so it suits them in the top lane.
Yep. And Nuclear, for once, just fighting an enemy that's not minions.
It's true. Spent the whole of the last game split pushing for some inexplicable reason.
Well, learning from his mistakes, it seems. Not quite having the level advantage. Kramer a little bit ahead there, but Mad Life not quite catching up just yet.
The reality is he's pushing CJ consistently under turret, and that allows Flawless to invade with little to no worry of being collapsed on by the CJ side.
Yep.
So you pick Caitlyn for lane control. She can freeze just fine. She can push just fine. If the team has decided for Spenu to push up this aggressively in top, it means that Flawless is feeling feisty.
Yep. After, clearly this is impacting BDD because after that first engage, goes in for the Azir Sec, not able to land the Emperor's Divide on the Assassin. I was just about to say he's not playing nearly as aggressively after losing that flash. Knowing Bubbling was in the wings, he was feeling much more confident that play, but outside of that in lane, he's not harassing nearly as much because he's just going to be so worried that Flawless is going to come in from the sidelines.
Credit Flawless there. That's exactly what you want. You want the Azir to feel pressure, just to be using all his spell rotations to clear waves. He's got some help inside of Bubbling.
Yep. Of course, that brush there is warded that Flawless is standing in, so BDD has all of the idea that he's standing in there. Ultimate from Sasa not going to connect.
2014 Varus Ultimate.
Not quite going to land. It's going to be the Camera Barrage coming in. Cocoon does not land from Bubbling. Has to hightail it out of here. Repels back in. Trying to finish off Sasa. It's not going to happen. But maybe he might just go down here for first blood. And he does. Flawless finds the kill. The arrival of Mad Life all too late. And Spenu walking away with first blood.
Really big mechanical error. Kramer's got nuclear low, but doesn't have kill pressure. But after getting an MVP, Bubbling. Big mistake. Could have either held on to the Cocoon or hit it. Unfortunately, when you miss it, opens up the counterplay and down goes Bubbling, and first blood to none other than Flawless on Lee Sin.
Yeah, and this is looking like he might be able to, it's still very early, but maybe take his set to 3-0 with Lee Sin. You never know.
This would be fortunate timing from a Spenu perspective. You're looking for that first match when you may only get one all season. Of course, outside chance you go 0-18. This is a winnable one. There's not many. You're not expecting them to beat any of the top teams, so whenever you're on the Rift against a team in the bottom four, you've got to take your chances.
Yep.
It could have been so different. The Spenu that was on display in Kesper Cup, the Spenu that was on display in Relegations. Again, in Relegations it was against a Challenger team, but they looked good. Flawless especially looked wonderfully strong. They had Sarsen and Nuclear. They were always promising mechanical players with interesting champion pools. We thought they would take the next step this year, but they have been very, very disappointing. So, look, there's always the chance they have an uptick in the second half of the round robin, but there's no analytical evidence that I can point to and say, okay, Spenu are looking like they're going to take the next step, because whether it's macro play, whether it's champ select, whether it's Nautilus mid, they've consistently given me reasons to be skeptical.
Yep, Tara coming straight into this giant wave.
Soul
trying to
is
get
in
on
a
the
lot of
Soul.
trouble here.
Yeah, he's quite low. Gets the slow onto him. Dodges out the ultimate. Flawless is here, though. Can he stop him? Kicks him Tara back. Lands a Sonic Wave. One more Q, but he gets stunned into the wall, and Soul will find the kill. And just like that, Spenu extending this lead.
But you know what that's on display right there, Achilles, is the confidence that Soul has in his jungler. And that's confidence we haven't seen in other games. That's confidence in Flawless on Lee Sin. Remember, Lee Sin isn't even at this fight, but we know he's going to be the first one to react. So even though the nice juke from Untara comes out, Soul's happy to re-engage. He plays the aggressive game because he has confidence in his jungler that hasn't been there since the last time probably we saw Flawless on that Lee Sin.
Yeah, and a great follow-up stun to just solidify that kill for Soul. Great start here for Spenu. Find themselves at a 1.5 thousand gold advantage and up those 2 kills. No towers going down quite just yet. It's not the tower-taking fest like we saw in that last game. But Flawless is going to make the first objective step here for Spenu and take down this dragon. where no member of CJ is there to answer.
If we learn anything from this game, win or lose for Spenu, it's that Flawless needs to find another champion that his team believes in him on. It should be the Elise. Elise, very mechanical. Flawless, a very mechanical player, but his Elise has been very, very poor. Nidalee's been unconvincing, but a little bit better. His Kindred's actually looked pretty good, all things considered.
Yep.
But it's all about the champion pool after Lee Sin when it comes to Flawless, taking it to the next level as a champion's jungler.
Yep. Bubbling, roaming up to that top side, but not going to be able to find anything as far as an engage goes. Untara losing out in these trades, knows that Flawless is in behind him as he clears out that pink ward. Has to be worried about this dive. The Dragon's Rage kick is back up.
Ult's been used just to clear the wave.
Yeah, he's going to try, clearing out this wave. So good by Untara, keeping himself safe. And now he will be able to hightail it back to that tier 2 and stay alive. Flawless and Soul scouting out for him, but they're not going to be able to get this kill.
Just trying to push in now. They don't turn onto this turret, and it looks like they won't. It looks like they're just happy to have Poppy proxy. They're going to lose an objective.
Yeah, BDD has to run back. Oh, he gets caught by the ultimate. Pops the cleanse. Goes in. Nice Emperor's Divide. The Dragon's Rage comes through, but it's not enough to finish off the Azir.
There were so many predictions in that play, but BDD's the one that won out. He expected Flawless to take that Q. No Lee Syndrome about it. If he did hit the resonating strike, would have got the kill with the Dragon's Rage kick.
Absolutely.
But BDD on the ball, gets the bounce away. Nice play, and just a nice mechanical play by two of our promising young Korean players.
Yep. Doing well. Secret getting stunned out on the top side, but nothing more really going to come of that. Still just a farm fest up here where it's been skirmishes throughout the rest of the map.
But a farm fest where Caitlyn hasn't taken the enemy turret or built up a CS advantage is a win for CJ.
This is very true.
You have to think about the lane matchup. Whenever it's Caitlyn, you expect 10 to 15 CS on a bad day as an advantage. And
or at
if
least
anything,
your opponent at a half HP.
Or your opponent's turret dead or at half HP. And there is the potential the turret's been taken down low. Of course, we did see Spenu forced off the top turret, and CJ also farming under turret. But as far as we can tell, just not the level of strength in the laning phase from Caitlyn as expected.
Yeah. And, well, I guess that really just comes back to showing that Flawless is really the one that's helping Spenu get this lead. Goes in to clear out this buff. Bubbling is here to back up Untara, who's quite low underneath this tower. But with Elise in the area, Poppy not going to aggress any further, so Soul backs off, and Untara lives another day. Oh, BDD going into Sauce, and the Empress Divide not going to do anything, but he's got the Sand Soldiers. Flashes away, but it's too close. Now Flawless is here, as is Secret, and there's nothing you can do. All spells on cooldown. BDD does go down, so mid laner for mid laner.
And look, BDD moments. It exists for solo queue. There's a solo kill on Sarsen, so that's another feather in his cap. Answered, but still nice individual outplay. Spenu will take bot lane turret.
Yep. Oh, Nuclear going to get slowed out by the Cannon Barrage. Can Kramer get in range? He barely has any mana. Manages to get another auto attack, and that's pretty much going to be about it. Bubbling and Mad Life gets spotted out by that ward, and Caitlyn stays safe. And another major global cooldown burned out here from Untara.
Very little gain, worth noting. Lucian's going to go back. Nice shopping trip. Going to probably be the Essence Reaver completed. Oh, very close. You're right, though. Flawless has been the story. Flawless has been the player that has created this now 2,400 gold lead. And for a poke comp or a siege comp to pick up this sort of advantage with very reliable disengage between Poppy, Alistar, and Lee Sin, it just means that if they hit their timings, if they finish their first item and get grouping around the 20-25 minute mark, there's going to be just not the items in the purse or the initiation from the team comp to be any real counterplay from a CJ Enter's perspective.
Yeah, we can see Flawless is just sticking with it, trying to aggress more in this mid lane. Knows that BDD's flash is still down. Probably knows the cleanse is not yet up as well.
Hard to say what's a more important cooldown from Flawless's perspective. His flash or BDD's, because kick flash is certainly a thing.
Yeah, with a windup. We can see Untara struggling in this matchup in the bot side of the map against Soul's Poppy.
That's not the Poppy matchup. That's, again, Flawless's pressure.
Still suffering in that matchup because of the efforts of Flawless, and now maybe at a point where he might not be able to duel Soul. See blue buff, though, getting taken away as three members of Spenu are here to secure this one. Untara coming around the sidelines. not going to be able to take this, though. Gets stunned into the wall by Soul. Takes a lot of damage, down to half HP. Ultimate comes across. Just going to knock Bubbling back into the jungle. And that's just going to be Spenu walking away with yet another buff of CJ's.
But CJ are reacting rather than going to top because Dragon spawns in a minute and they don't want to give up complete Dragon control to Spenu. So it's free time for Spenu to decide what to do with top. And yeah, the turret's very healthy for a Caitlyn lane, you'd have to say.
Yeah, and Kramer is ahead in CS. So not even at this point. BDD goes forward, not able to find the engage. Has to cleanse off. The ultimate here from Sassen takes that piercing arrow to the face as well. It's going to be sending him back to base.
20 seconds till Dragon, so really good timing from Sassen. BDD. Once again, the aggression finds him nothing. Didn't have flash to guarantee an angle.
Yep.
He knew that Sassen didn't have Ghost Flash himself, but needed that summoner advantage to pull off in a ZSEC play, and the result is a bad back timing and potentially a second Dragon from Spenu, but with so many members top, looks like that's not their imminent objective.
Yep. He's trying to apply some more pressure into this mid lane. Oh, they know Bubbling is the only one here. BDD on his way. It's already been chipped down to about half HP, and Sassen getting more auto attacks in, constantly just whittling this thing away.
Just really little counterplay for CJ in that regard. It's basically poke catches on the side of CJ. Only really Mad Life can get away with that with the Unbreakable, but everyone else is going to try to walk up to wave clear and then eat things like the Piltover Peacemaker, the Piercing Arrow, and not much answer.
Yep, Flawless just going straight back over to this Dragon. It's just going to solo it out yet again.
The fact that Varus is strong enough already to create solo pressure in mid,
Yep.
even without fully committing to the siege, means that Flawless is, once again, picking up Dragons. The snowballing of Soul in the bot lane. Remember, he was losing to Gangplank in the early trades, then snowball that lane ahead, lane pressure in mid, lane pressure in bot. 2 easy Dragons. Really clinical stuff from Spenu.
Yeah, quite methodical from the side of Flawless and how he's been rotating around this map. BDD trying to clear out these minions before this tower gets taken even lower. Now several members of Spenu are hovering around this mid lane as Soul wanders back towards the bot, going to continue that push onward towards the tier 2. And we once again have both of our AD carries just relegated to the top lane all by their lonesome. On their lonesome. Going back and forth. Kramer's still with decent CS lead, hovering about 10 CS above Nuclear.
This is definitely a game where if you can get away with Nuclear just farming in the mid game, that's fine.
Yeah.
Caitlyn still does have her mid game drop off. It gets very powerful in the late game, but I guess it's important to preface that with, okay, her teamfight damage in the mid game goes down, but when the enemy team has low initiation, you can plop down 5 traps. Your siege game is actually pretty through the roof, so
Yeah.
grouping with Caitlyn, now with the second Dragon buff, is also a possibility for Spenu.
Yep. And now BDD has to run away as Soul comes into the mid lane. We can see that gold lead is just stretching substantially as well. Almost 20 CS up for Sassen because of all that pressure that's been applied against BDD.
Surprisingly, the gold lead overall has actually been brought back a little bit. It's only at 2,000, so definitely touching distance for CJ, especially with the early power pick of Caitlyn. Expected to grow a gold lead, but actually still in a CS deficit.
Yep. Still very winnable for CJ, but going to have to play very intelligently around Flawless's Lee Sin, which so far they've not been able to do quite just yet.
Let's see when CJ feels strong enough to actually make the first contest. Because Spenu, while they're on track for a third Dragon buff, again, they're strongest under enemy turrets. So what I want to see from them is around the spawn time of Dragon, plop the 5 members in mid, put down the line of traps, get...
Oh, Mad Life getting found out. It's going to be the Camera Barrage coming through. The TP as well from Muntara. Secret's already quite low. BDD gets caught by that ultimate. The Dragon Rage comes through. Empress Fight just a little too late to deny that resonating strike. Soul does not land the ultimate, but it might not matter. Muntara goes down. It's going to be a multi-kill coming in for Sassen. I think he got all 3 off of that fight. And CJ, the window of opportunity is closing. This mid turret is going to fall.
They don't even need to hit that timing around Dragon. They're going to get it now. Once again, Flawless tussles up BDD. BDD dies first. So does CJ's hope of holding this outer mid lane turret. Even the inner one is going to fall almost instantly. Double AD hitting their power spikes with second Dragon. And all Bubbling can do is watch from the jungle.
Yeah, and that's not going to do too much good for his team. Kramer trying to make the best of a
What is
terrible
CJ
situation. just pushing out that top tower, but they're just losing an inhibitor for this. BDD comes back in, but of course no ultimate available. Trying to get some damage in onto Flawless. Mad Life, not much he can do. Now Bubbling on the wrong side of the fight. Let's see if CJ can make something happen. Bubbling goes in, propels back down to the sauce, and they get the slow onto him, but there's not going to be too much more chase as Mad Life has almost fallen. And it looks like Spinner's going to get away scot-free.
That was a really nice escape from Sarsin. He actually used the ultimate hit BDD, stopped him from initiation even with the EQ and flash up, and then flashed away from the headbutt Pulverize.
Oh,
CJ
boy.
are trying to punish with Baron. They know that Spenu has to back, but this is risky.
It's warded, and not many people backed, really just Secret, so they're going to have to peel off of this one. And they do just that. So avoiding the Dignitas play. Not going to go quite for that one.
Oh boy, the shot's fired.
I mean, statistically it is. It's also kind of the North American play at this point.
True.
It really has hit that.
NA Baron.
Yeah, just a little bit, but they peel off of it, so not quite there. It was the half NA.
Crazy once again. Flawless 100% kill percentage. We're finally going to see this replay. Watch the play onto BDD. Full health at this point. Look, it's going to be fine. The first stun comes out, and then Flawless, as always, shows up behind, even gets the resonating strike.
Yeah, it was just really late on the windup for that Emperor's Divide for BDD.
It's just so confusing that this guy's conceptualization of fights on Lee Sin, Skirmish is on Lee Sin, out of this world. But every other champion, he looks like the worst jungler in the league.
One trick Lee Sin, perhaps.
Truer words never spoken. So One Riven and Flawless Lee Sin.
Yeah.
I hope he grows the champion pool.
This could be really bad, though. Kramer and Untara in this brush. Untara hovering around. Kramer, they think he's alone. Ace in the hole comes out. Untara goes forward. Cannon Brush comes down. Can he find Saucin? No. Too much shielding coming through. And now CJ on the run. Untara gets popped up by that Pulverize, and they are just going to kill him. Nuclear finds a killing blow. Kramer does walk away with his life, but it's a tower for the top laner.
Well, I think the 2-0 you were talking about is pretty out the window.
Yep,
Soul pushing
it's
it
gone.
top. CJ's drafts, I think, have been really good at times, and then this game where I understand the Azir, you just won the laning matchup, but you have to look at the rest of your champions. You're against a poke comp, and you have literally no answer to the poke.
Yep. Let's see. This is the standard setup for the siege in the bot side. All of the traps being dropped. There's really just no, it's not even a siege. There's nobody from CJ here to answer this tower take. Spinner just get it for free. 7-2 in towers. Gold lead going up even more. 7.6 thousand for Spenu at 23.5 minutes.
7,600 gold, 2 dragons, soon to be 3.
Yep. Perfect timing.
When you hit your timings as a poke comp, the dragon is your reward. The dragon is something you can kite back to after you either chunked someone out and taken out a turret, or chunked out a turret and kite back and take the free dragon, because the pressure of a siege comp working perfectly is almost impossible to answer. Especially when you got no Malphite or Poppy or anything really to hit in the backline. Alistar was available. Alistar's not the ideal initiator, but certainly can do that job a lot cleaner than Braum.
Yeah.
Braum is a good answer to siege. Worth noting, you can stop one of those line skill shots, whether the piercing arrow or the Piltover Peacemaker, but altogether this construction from CJ, you get dragon control, you get the lanes snowballing, sure it can work out, but you have to think about the worst case scenario, and that's what Spenu is really forcing on to CJ Entus.
Yep. And Untara being so pressed early on. And of course, with the nerfs as well, doesn't have a lot of gold. Only has one completed item on the gangplank. So he's not going to be hitting as hard as he needs to be in these team fights.
Let's never forget, it's Spenu on a poke comp, so there is always the outside chance that they decide not to siege and to force down a Baron or Dragon.
It is quite possible, but with how they've been playing right now, and how they just seem to play around Flawless on this Lee Sin, I can't see it happening. But it's very possible. BDD gets jumped on, however, popped up in the air by Soul. Jumps away with the flash, keeps himself alive. Secret goes back for it, has to pop the ultimate. Looks like that might just be the disengage. So he can't quite get back in there.
No flash, no cleanse on BDD.
Yep. And this should be a pretty juicy Baron that Spenu want to go for.
Just remember, Baron requires threats to group. They require the team to stand fairly stationary, and suddenly CJ can go and look for angles that they don't have access to in an open lane. That's why siege comps prefer not to fight for Baron, but it's being rushed down. So far, no vision whatsoever.
Yep.
But a good idea from CJ.
Yeah, the TP comes in, but the TP in the backside of the red pit as well. Untara gets locked down. He's just gonna die. Can't even do a damn thing. And Spinner just trying to pinch in on the rest of the team. Soul will get stunned out here with the concussive blows. Madlife trying to block as much as he can. Ace in the hole does get blocked by Unbreakable. Flawless goes deep, hits that kick, goes Kramer, and he gets popped. BDD throws out the Emperor's Divide, has to pop the Zonias, but he is in the middle of no man's land and goes down all the same. Madlife, the second to last living member of CJ on the run, will get finished off by Soul right here. It's just Bubbling that's alive. Looks like he's trying to duel with Secret. Can he get this kill? If he does, it really doesn't matter. Spenu just running away with this game.
But he is buying enough time that stops Spenu from trying to finish right now.
Yep,
So
he
picks
does
up
get
the
the
kill, get away. Now the big factor there was that actually Azir put down the Sun Turret, stopped the minion wave from pushing up, so he couldn't actually try and finish the game. So success in buying time, but maybe only time to get their first Baron.
Yeah, looks like that is going to be the play here. Untara is back up, running over toward the pit. Bubbling is here. It'd be a suicide mission if he does go for the steal, but it might be one that he has to undertake. Untara, again, getting caught out on the other side. Not in range for that resonating strike, though, is Flawless, but he's just going to stick around and smite out the Baron. Just like that.
Also, ulting Bubbling away to ensure that there was no steal available.
Untara almost going down yet again, seconds after spawning.
So, good play from Spenu once again. Spenu, they fight for the Baron at a smart time. They kite away from it smartly, too. They didn't just stay on it.
Look, Untara
Deletion
can't
on
do
that
that
turret.
thing.
There's nothing you can say about
Yeah.
that particular thing. The fight continues because Soul has great chasing. But
This
watch,
was a great play.
watch Flawless again. Follows the resonating strike flash, but when Flawless has flash, this is always the story.
Yep, that's when the play
Right, flash onto Kramer, and that's what I'm saying. It's nice when
get made.
the Sun Turret being up is what stopped the minion line from coming through, and it stopped the game from being potentially a clean 25-minute win. A great execution of a poke comp. Spenu, if they can keep up the pressure, if they don't let this game drag out to the point where one lost team fight and they lose, they're in a great spot.
Absolutely, almost 10,000 gold in the lead, which is not something that you get to say about Spenu pretty much ever. So very well played with these guys so far. Roaming through the jungle, just hunting down CJ. Soul is all on his lonesome, but the rest of the team is collapsing in. Soul gets caught by the cocoon. He will get popped. And that's going to be Repel coming up. Where will Bubbling drop? It's just right in the center. And Spenu actually not able to capitalize and pinch in on CJ, so a nice pick for them. But they do have super creeps knocking on the Nexus Tower doors.
That does give them 50-second death timer, though, to push out these super minions. It does force Spenu to back away from what could have been another force. They're looking for their own
Like, we know exactly where you are.
their own camp, but don't get it. But still, important pick onto Soul means breathing room for CJ, more time to scale for Untara. Donated over this time by Spenu, it's worth noting.
Yep, looks like Spinner's just going to get set up for their fourth dragon of the game, which is spawning in about 35 seconds. So go ahead and back off and then go straight back to that more than likely. CJ, you know, if this game is going to get dragged out, they're going to have to contest the dragons sooner or later.
Will the fourth dragon be that place? BDD won't quite have flash up for it. It's about 45 seconds away. But no guarantee.
Yep.
Well, it is pretty much a guarantee that Spinner are going to rush it down, given the positioning of Flawless.
Yep. Secret here as well to back up the team, and with Elise up in the top side, that is just going to be fourth dragon for free over to Spenu. So another win condition, you know, within the next couple minutes here.
I mean, Siege Comp having fourth dragon so massive as well. Remember, this is a double AD Siege Comp with 3 frontline disengages and potential engages in Alistair, Lee Sin, and Poppy. Now all 3 of these guys can poke around, can get cute, can take turret aggro, and receive almost no damage from the turret in return with the health and armor stacking they've already done. So Siege just got better. It's a worrying spot for CJ.
Very worrying indeed. I mean, granted, the Lee Sin is definitely not going to make it through the draft for that third game, but if it did, this would definitely be a set that Spinu could win. You never know, though. If they can play like this on a different jungle champion, they could take the set and have their first set win.
There's no definites about Spenu. That's the only story. The only consistent factor has been their match losses.
I think it's a definite that Flawless does not get Lee Sin again.
CJ played now 5 games against Spenu. 2 games Lee Sin has been available, and this is looking like the second victory out of 2.
Yep. Trying to keep it rolling. Bubbling's trying to take down some of these wards.
CJ just can't do anything.
Yeah, you can't go near that tower. Soul comes in, just stuns up Bubbling, has to go up in the air, but he's going to come straight back down. Actually, there's a nice little ward to jump to. Flawless goes forward, not able to get the Sonic Wave out, however.
Sun Turret comes up again, so don't have to deal with a second minion line in their base just yet.
Yeah. You can see there's just no chipping coming out from the side of CJ. They can't get close enough to hit.
Well, who's the
front
person
line
who's
of
going to
Spinner.
chip? Even BDD gets in a
Can't
reaction.
even get a barrel chain off.
Nothing they can do. This is the most wave clear they can find is a Sand Soldier that's almost directly under the turret.
Yep. It's extremely oppressive here from Spinu. Sand turret does go down. And they're straight on to that inhibitor. The mid one has since spawned, of course. And Spinu likely going to try to rotate over that one. No, it's going to be the Cam Barrage coming through from Untara. Can they follow up? Soul is deep in the base by himself, has to flash over the wall to get out. Headlight gets hit by the Sonic Wave. I don't think that we're going to see Flawless go for that play, but they're going straight back in. They will take down the inhibitor. Untara quite low, has to back off. Bubbling, gets caught, popped up in the air. They lock him up. Can he even repel? No, he cannot. Gets finished off by Flawless. Culling comes out, but it is just tickling the members of Spenu. And with that pick, they are just that much more open. Take this middle inhibitor as well.
CJ only have one frontliner left in Mad Life, who's chunked out a little bit himself, but Spenu going to back away. Going to go for safety first. They have the inhibitor down the furthest away from Baron, so when Baron spawns in a minute and a half, going to be very difficult for CJ to respond. Now you might say, okay, Untara has teleport, but remember that Gangplank needs to be in position early to start his Baron links. Gangplank's up there with Vladimir and champions that when they show up with a teleport, you're like, really? Okay, I guess you're here. It's not, certainly not a Lissandra or something with immediate impact.
We will just destroy you.
It's very, very squishy. He's not had any room to get Asterix Gauge or Mortman. Morty's actually going for the Infinity Edge third. I don't know if there's room for the greed in the build this time, Untara, because your front line's dying very fast to the focus fire of double AD, and the armor stacking has only so far happened on Bubbling.
Yep, don't think we're going to see that happen on pretty much anybody else in the team.
Braum will certainly find some.
Braum in a bit, yeah. But if it even gets to the point where he can start stacking it.
I don't know how CJ end up in these comps where Righteous Glory Braum is their engage. It's let's pop the Gangplank ult and then Zillion will speed you up, or let's pop the Gangplank ult and then Righteous Glory will come online. And it's sad. It's just a sign that there isn't a complete coherent idea on how to draft or how a draft should develop, because there's some good laning matchups they've picked into, but comp-wise, when you see a poke comp, you don't go for what CJ has put together.
Yeah, could have gone for the Sivir and forced the 2D one.
Very, very true.
Would have been better for them. You offered them a lot more wave clear as well. You can see, though, all 5 members of Spenu pushing up here. Nothing that CJ can do, just have to surrender this inhibitor unless they want to do one do-or-die fight here in the base. But I think they're going to save that one for the Baron.
They don't even have someone to teleport flank because it's Gangplank.
Yep.
You can't flank, you can't engage from the front because of the traps, and you're giving away 4 dragons.
Really just poor game coming in here from CJ after having such a great one in that first match.
But crucially, we're now hit 35 minutes, death timers are at 70 seconds, and the game's not over. So there's still room for Spenu to lose a team fight, get aced, and the game can end. We've seen it happen so many times in the 2016 patches.
Yep, you see them trying to go for a bait, but it gets warded out. Bubbling gets caught yet again by the Varus ultimate. They go into him, but he gets headbutted away. Cam Barrage comes down. Soul and Secret taking a lot of damage. All-Star ultimate has been popped. Poppies as well is charging up, but with no targets. Just going to hold on to that one. So a little bit used from the side of CJ. Untara healing up with that orange. And it looks like Spenu are still just roaming over toward this Baron. Gets spotted out by that Scrying Orb.
They do not need to start this Baron. There is no reason to do so.
It could be their undoing if they do, and Hara has to go back to the base, however, to answer the Super Creep wave. Teleport is available by him. Bubbling quite low as well. BDD going to try to chunk out as much as he can with the Sand Soldiers, but still not able to find too many auto attacks. Still engaged. It's down to half HP. This is going to be the TP in from Untara. Let's see if CJ can make some kind of game-breaking play. Bubbling
really
gets knocked
nice
away. Beautiful hit by Soul. Everybody in the pit. No chance of a steal whatsoever. That's going to be the second Baron going over to Spenu. Question is, do they continue to fight CJ, or do they just back off? BDD looks like he's out for blood, but takes a massive piercing arrow to the face, and he's gonna have to back off.
All right, really nice play once again from Soul, which does vindicate the Baron decision. CJ are moving towards 5th Dragon, though. With everyone recoiling from Spenu, there will be an answering Dragon from CJ.
So at least they delay the 5th Dragon potential.
Teleport, though. Spenu trying to force this.
Yeah, this is going to be Soul coming right back around the sidelines. Not going to be able to get it confirmed by Kramer. Goes in, is dealing a lot of damage. Stuns Bubbling into the wall. Might just be able to finish him off. Bubbling has to flash away. The piercing arrow not quite going to land. Let's see if they have any more follow-up. The heal used just for the movement speed. Piercing arrow yet again not going to connect. A nice repel into the super creeps for Bubbling. Will keep him alive. Mad Life slowing out that super creep, making sure it can't auto Bubbling a couple times to knock him down. So nice little reprieve. They all get away with their lives. They get their first Dragon of the game, but still in such a crippling position.
Now Spenu will just send 5 members top, put down 5 traps, and what are CJ to do? That is the developing question that we should see. Going to see everyone push up this wave. In fact, Caitlyn intercepting the next wave before it can hit the creeps.
Now we can see it is a 11,000 gold lead here for Spenu. Probably their biggest lead that they've ever had, almost.
We've seen some big Spenu leads this season. It's not a no-hope team. That's the issue. You know, we've seen Team Coast over in NA you'd have to say they were a bit of a no-hoper by the end. Spenu have a lot of quality in this lineup. They've just... their macros let them down, or their micros let them down. Something's always let them down, and there's still an outside chance it'll let them down now.
Yeah. We'll have to see. Tower getting chunked out by Nuclear so very quickly. He's laying down these traps, just denying Mad Life from trying to go in, make that aggressive play. This is just going to be another inhibitor exposed. The bot lane one has respawn, so that's a little bit of pressure alleviated.
In 5-man formation, there is so little pressure on Spenu's double AD. Varus always going to be out of auto attack range at this point, but no one can get anywhere near Caitlyn.
Yep. Tara and Bubbling keep getting chunked down. Nuclear just going to push forward and try to get this inhibitor, which I think he's going to be able to do. And Tara going to have to back to the fountain, and just like that, that's going to be another inhibitor down here. Mid one will be spawning quite soon, but Spenu just going to go take the bot one. Baron Empowered creeps in the base. Baron Empowered super creeps in the base. They might be able to win the game right here, Papa.
They're going to try. They don't need... You know, there's the ultimate, though.
Yeah, that is going to be the ultimate coming out from Untara, but it's not really hitting or zoning anybody. Bubbling gets chunked down quite low, has to repel out. Will he make it out with his life? Yes, he will. The Varus ultimate just going to miss by the tip of it. But that's 3 inhibitors down to the base of CJ, and this is looking like a hopeless situation.
It is, but they need to wait for the minion line. CJ enters as an org, have won games from 3 inhibitors down, but with so few tools to do so, it's going to require a catastrophic mistake from Spenu.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're capable of making that mistake. Bubbling takes a Sonic Wave. He's not going to ride that one forward. Tar doing everything that he can to try to clear out these waves with the barrels. Does a pretty good job of it now. Has finally hit that power spike that he's needed to be at about 15 minutes ago.
Everybody's bringing in the top lane waves. There's only 2 waves currently converging in CJ's base.
Yeah, but the rest of those creeps are now arriving in that top lane. The bot lane one's coming in very quickly as well. CJ need to make something happen here. And without some of their major cooldowns, I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. Calling is down. Cannon Barrage is down. Mid inhibitor does come up, and it's going to get knocked right back down.
Died basically instantly. Nothing to kite back to for Spenu. He's going to keep the pressure on. The super minion wave in top is grouping.
Yep, that's going to be the Glacial Fissure. Only finds Soul for the knock-up here. Gets stunned up. Kramer gets caught, however, they pile right onto him. The Pulver comes through. He goes down. Sassen finds the kill. Flawless going deep, kicks Mad Life out of all people. I think you kind of wanted Untara on that one, but BDD all on his lonesome, gets caught out, flashes to the other side of the Emperor's Divide, falls all the same. 3 remaining members of CJ Entis, Untara being one of them quite low, has to back off to the fountain, but to no avail. The Nexus towers go down. The Nexus is going to fall, and Papa, we're going to 3 games. Spenu taking one off of CJ.
Spenu Sonic Boom's first game win in 9 comes over, and it's Flawless as Lee Sin. How can there be any surprise about that?
Yep.
2 factors to this game. Flawless, once again, outstanding on Lee Sin. Easily the MVP of this game. But the other side is CJ seeing double AD and just disregarding it. And once again having no tools. Very reminiscent of their comp in the last series where they were running Zillion Rek'Sai as Engage. No Engage means no way to deal with the poke comp if it hits his timings. They were ahead because of Flawless, and they won cleanly.
Yeah, absolutely ahead because of Flawless. And you can see the team getting a pat on the head from the coach. But even so, staying focused, not getting ecstatic, not letting their emotions take hold of them. CJ, though, looking a little bit somber after having such a stompy win in that first game and then coming in here and just getting reverse stomped out by Spenu.
Really, really good game from Flawless.
Absolutely.
At an important time, this guy, Buffless, a week ago, and suddenly we once again see why everyone was hyped about him. People were like, this is a top 3 jungler in the LCK. And clearly he's not. He's not at that stage yet, but he has that potential, and that's what got people excited. The 5-man Lee Sin kick in relegations last year, and the 3 times we've seen it this year, outstanding.
Yeah. But I think it's very safe to say Lee Sin not going to make it through this next draft. And then the question becomes, what is Spenu going to do? How are they going to play to find themselves a win? We're going to find out when we come back. It's Game 3, the end of the set. CJ Entus versus Spenu. Welcome back to Champions. Your MVP from that game was, of course, Flawless, who played a pretty flawless game himself, 4-0-8 on the Lee Sin.
Just wonderful.
Absolutely.
It is a treat to watch this guy play Lee Sin. So now when we saw this Lee Sin in relegations last year, we thought, okay, think about him on these other mechanical champions. But the reality of this season has been that he hasn't shown anything on Elise. He hasn't shown anything on Italy. He's been very disappointing, but when he does get that Lee Sin, and remember, there's been games where it's been available to be picked and they haven't picked this champion, which frustrates me to no end. This was a really nice play.
Yeah, that was a good
BDD to live, but just watch some of these other fights. He's so clever about conceptualizing how to get around this kick onto BDD and then the execute with the resonating strike. Won them the game, you'd have to say, because the pressure from here, Spinu never let off. His Lee Sin, calling someone a one-trick in pro play is almost never done because it's just not the reality, but all he has shown is Lee Sin. That's what we have to say.
Yeah, it's pretty damn close. It's about as close as you can get. 85% kill participation in that game as well.
That one trick, it's amazing.
Yeah, but the problem is he's just not going to get it. I have to question CJ as well going into that second draft because they banned it away from him in the first game. So something might have changed. Maybe they thought that he wasn't going to play it or that they could handle it. But something went very, very wrong for CJ Entus, and they suffered heavily for it.
Well, remember, in the first game and now the third game, they're on blue side. On blue side, you are free to ban away things because the red side has to ban the OPs, right?
This is true.
Or what is perceived as an OP. CJ felt like they didn't have the room in the draft to ban away the Lee Sin. We'll never know if they did, but the end result was pretty painful for CJ Entus.
Yep. Well, we'll see what they do this time around. Last game draft here. And of course, CJ now on the blue side are more than likely going to be banning away that Lee Sin. I want to see if Spenu are going to ban the Zed or leave it up.
CJ Entus learned a few years ago that you don't play with fire. Everyone remembers a certain Champions final where 3 games of Zed, 3 victories in a row, and MVP Ozone sweeping CJ Entus Blaze. They're less stubborn these days, which is a good thing.
Quite a good thing for their sake.
Italy banned as well.
Yep, and Kalista as always. I don't think we'll ever get to see a Kalista game.
Not from Kramer. Kramer, again, is one of these A or S tier Kalista players. Also opens up Mad Life to play Braum and then become an initiator.
Yeah, and of course the Bard going to be banned away from Mad Life. Varus as well.
No poke comps allowed.
Yeah, being banned out by CJ. They say, we know your game, we're going to take this away. But, you know, there's a lot still up here, particularly the Corki, exactly. And Poppy is going to be the ban. So does CJ take Corki first pick here? I think they should.
I think that you take Corki here because then there's just no hope for a poke comp. No poking jungler.
Yep.
The Varus mid lane that's been the default of the poke comp, at least in week 8, the second round robin of champions. You've also had the Poppy banned away, who's one of the best champions at disengaging for a poke comp.
Yep.
Feels like Spenu have to go standard, and look, neither the poke nor the standard's been outstanding, but that last win was clean on poke, and now poke basically denied from Spenu.
Yep. You can see Corki's pick rate has just grown catastrophically, 47.9%, up there with Poppy. And of course, above Kalista at this point because, you know, she never really gets through.
Worth knowing it's just pick rate. Pick ban, Kalista will be way up the top.
Yeah. But now the hover over the Kog'Maw. But yep, here's actually something that did make it to the draft was Lulu banned, and both other games could just be picked up here by Spenu.
Well, you flash the Kog'Maw and suddenly Juggermaw is certainly potentially on the menu if Lulu is taken in the first round.
Yeah. And if they want to prevent that, CJ would have to draft it, which would put BDD on Corki in the mid lane. But for now, Spinu not going to show too much of their hand, just locking in the Elise and the Braum.
So you take Braum to deny Corki poke.
Yep.
There's always the potential that CJ were going to be the ones to open up poke comp, and Braum's the best champion to deal with that. Again, I think it's a weird world where Braum has higher priority than Alistar, but I guess given double AD, given the sieging comps, and given just the power in taking those early turrets with the global gold they provide, it feels like Braum, as a result of the meta, has really jumped up in priority.
Yep, and here we see the hover over Lulu now for CJ. BDD did play this in their first game just 2 days ago. Didn't die on it. But
I'm not willing to dismiss it as a pick for BDD. It's just what will CJ draft with the Lulu, because they'll need damage from somewhere. This, of course, means AD carry is going to be the Corki, which is different from the Blue Ezreal, which is different from the other champions that we've seen a lot from Kramer. Of course, outside chance of top lane Lulu, but Antara hasn't played that one yet this season.
yeah, quite possible. Looks like Alistar will get locked in, so gets locked in with that Lulu, so more than likely just going to be that Corki Alistar bot lane.
I feel like CJ's drafts have been nopes. You lock in the Corki first, no poke comp. You take the Lulu, no Juggermore. So, what's left for Speno seems like some pretty standard picks. Lissandra, very nice flex pick on the side of Speno. Very, very standard pick comp coming so far.
Yeah, this is looking pretty good for Speno.
And CJ have to show us something. There's no synergy between Lulu and Corki when it comes to team fights. Obviously, Whimsy helps everybody, but certainly not going to be a frontline Corki reigning terror like, for example, the Kog'Maw will do. So where are we going with the comp? Is the question for CJ.
Well, right now the hover over Kindred would certainly be interesting. I think Bubbling's looking for something that he can mess with Flawless early on.
Kindred
Stop him from
Nautilus
having
maybe
any
and
kind
have
of
your
impact.
own siege comp?
I suppose you could go for something like that.
I just don't know what the Kindred pairs with to have successful identity. What will the top laner be? That's the big question. And Tara's played almost purely carries. Maybe the top lane's going to be Lulu.
This could be top lane Lulu. They're thinking about it, but of course you're picking. They lock in the Zed. Picking the Zed into the Lissandra as well.
Interesting. This is BDD on his signature champion Zed. Whenever he dominates solo queue, which is every season for the past two, he has been outstanding on the Zed. And now he picks it into the Lissandra matchup. Now Monte Cristo was very vocal about Frozen when he picked Zed into Lissandra last week. The one thing you can say is that Zed actually has a pretty good early laning phase against Lissandra, can poke her out. It's just the kill pressure usually isn't there. But when you've played this matchup a fair few times, and BDD's most played champion, Season 6, Season 5 is the Zed, I'm confident in Speno having an idea. But again, we have to always talk about flex. Kayle mid.
Yeah, it could be Kayle mid, but it's going to be the Malphite in the end of things. I actually would have liked to have seen that Kayle locked in two ways to just completely negate that death mark.
I actually don't like the laning matchup. I actually like the laning matchup less for Kayle than I do for Lissandra, because Kayle, you can play around that ult pretty adeptly, and you get DPS out because your wave clear requires you to get aggressive, so you take shurikens, you're low on health for a lot of the laning phase. It's actually pretty tough against Zed, again outside of the ultimate. Lissandra a bit more reliable. Is Speno going to send Malphite mid? There is certainly the potential.
It really looks like they're going to do just that.
Waiting for 20 seconds to know for sure.
Looks like they're talking like, are you sure you want to play Lissandra?
Well, it's going to be a Malphite mid. This
does
is
look like it.
Sarsen going to the mid lane tanks. It's not Nautilus, it's Malphite this time. The early levels are still going to be painful. It's still going to be eating a lot of harass, but you're going to build enough armor items, and suddenly it's going to be hard for BDD to pressure this lane, at least as far as we can tell on paper.
Yeah. This looks like this could be a little bit rough early on for Speno, but overall, in the end of things, how are you liking the composition compared to that of CJ's?
It's a really tough ask. I feel like they have excellent engaged, good pick, a very balanced comp from Speno. It's just, what does this Zed pick accomplish? Is BDD able to overcome two champions that, at least on paper, can answer Zed in many different ways? It's going to be team fighting Zed, or it's going to have to be one hell of a split push to outsplit push Malphite and Lissandra.
Well, we're going to find out when we get onto the Rift in just a few seconds. CJ Entis versus Speno, Game 3 coming right up.
That's why the walls come tumbling down. When they do, I'll be right behind you. Everybody
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
The fans very overwhelmingly this time in favor of CJ after that loss. Let's see the showdown in the mid lane.
Everyone's rocking out between BDD and Sarsen. This is what fans have been waiting to see. The Zed montages from BDD. BDD montage, Zed montage, they're basically the same thing. You use the two terms interchangeably because this guy is linked to Zed in a way that no one has been since maybe Faker back after that famous play against Ryu in the blind pick match. So BDD has got an uphill battle, at least on paper. Malphite going to stack a lot of armor, be difficult to kill. Early laning phase, I think, pretty good for the Zed, all things considered, because low wave clear from Malphite, going to eat a lot of free damage. But then you split push, and split push against Lissandra is going to be difficult with her ultimate, but not impossible. So he's going to have to play out of his mind, but there's always that chance. Just looking at the masteries, just so you guys at home can know, it is going to be
the Thunderlords.
Thunderlords
Across 3
Zed.
members of CJ. But yeah, like you were saying, early on in the lane, it is pretty good for him. He can break that shield on Saucin with relative ease because he just doesn't have that much base health right now. Of course, Cloth Armor is coming in for Saucin. He's going to try to mitigate as much damage as possible early on.
One thing I want to point out is that it's actually pretty greedy to go the refillable potion instead of pots. Now, eventually that'll probably be turned into a corrupting potion. It's just wanting to get the cloth armor with the first buy, but
Yep.
it's not actually a lot of regen. There's probably going to have to be a quick back, and it is Ignite Malphite, so could potentially punish that back if it tries to come out early to finish up the corrupting potion.
Yeah. Now, what do you think? Do you think it's just early Cloth Armor for a little bit of early sustain and mitigation, and he's going to go full AP, or is it just going to be a full tank Malphite?
It's going to be a full tank Malphite.
I hope so, for the sake of spinning.
You're not building Rod of Ages against BDD. You're not building Catalyst. You're building armor. It might be, of course, the Balmy Cinder first, but Sunfire Cave makes a lot of sense because you need help with the wave clear.
No,
and
man.
Sunfire Cave has the change.
It's
Now
just
there's-
Rabbidan's first item.
Well, it's nice to dream. What about Zonia's? It gives you armor. The synergy.
That's it's going to be Seeker's Arm Guard.
I mean-
first back.
I mean, there's an outside chance to seek Zanga, but it's not going to be that. Let's be real.
Yeah, more likely than it's not going to happen.
Because you're going to eat a lot of poke. You're going to have to walk into a wave. You're probably going to max E first, walk into a wave and try and ground pound and clear the wave. And Sunfire Cave, with that 150% damage to minions and monsters, will help you wave clear and not get chunked out as much against the Zed.
We'll see Kramer and Madlight being pushed in underneath of this tower so far. Good aggression from the side of Nuclear and Secret, trying to poke them out and harass them as much as possible. You see just
Malphite
that.
has 73 armor.
Yeah.
At level 3.
He's got to be running a lot of armor in his.
I think when you're a mid laner, laning against BDD, you're ready the armor page.
Yeah, just take nothing but armor runes.
Might be some magic and reds, but not a lot else.
Maybe. BDD though is doing a pretty decent job of stopping the shield from coming back up, trying to hit him within that 10-second window. Looks like he's going to be able to get the shield. Yep, there it is. But even just one shuriken is pretty much taking that shield down.
The evolving matchup is going to be Zed versus Lissandra. You have to remember that it's an Ignite Malphite, so he's probably not going to answer the split push. There's the chance that 2 Ignite laners will go toe-to-toe, but probably not, all things considered.
Ooh, BDD missing 2 CS right there.
So one thing to take into account, Lissandra is going to have to build Magic Resist, most likely to deal with the Lulu laning phase, and then it's going to have a Zed swapped into a lane. So there might be some early purchase discrepancies. If Soul goes for something like a Frost Queen's Claim, get the Spooky Coast going, won't have any stats to deal with either Lulu or Zed. So will we see a really greedy build? Do you rush Zonia's as Lissandra, knowing that you probably will be facing a Zed, but be building very suboptimally for lane?
I don't know. That's a very good question. We'll have to see how Soul is going to play this one out. I would say yes to the Zonias, but you never know. He might just try to optimize for this lane instead. Stick against Untara.
10 armor penetration versus a Chain Vest.
Oh, buddy. This is just going to be...
It's going to
A
be exactly
no
what you
damage
think it's going to
lane.
be.
You might as well be playing Nautilus mid.
It's funny. Such a strong solo rank pick
Yep.
for Zed, for BDD.
Yeah, BDD just, sitting back, farming with those shurikens. Moving forward now into Saucin. His bubbling comes around the side, has the red buff available. Rocks the Thunderlords, but not going to be able to find too much else off of that. Bubbling will clear a little bit of vision, get rid of that pink ward.
And Tara definitely against type as well. This guy's been playing carries for the past 3 weeks, now playing top lane Lulu, who can find a decent amount of pressure against Lissandra, but certainly isn't Fiora gameplay that we've known from him.
Yeah, definitely not. See, though, this is going to be Flawless coming back in. Untara using his teleport to join his lane back again. BDD walking up onto Saucin, unaware that Flawless is sitting in that side brush. He takes that seismic shard, but BDD is playing a little too cautiously to caught. Maybe not. That's the ultimate immediately. Oh, and just like that, I have to eat my own words. BDD follows the shadow forward, immediately unstoppable. Immediately with the unstoppable force. I can't even talk because I'm just shocked that he followed that through. He gets picked.
And the ping of 6, first before BD. They were both 1 minion from 6, but the 1 minion means so much more when you have Flawless camping the mid lane, and BDD falls behind. He's taken so much on. You know he's the one who called for the Zed pick, with potentially Lissandra as the best case matchup, and now Malphite is one that, at least for this early laning phase, is going to be worse.
Yeah, that was a really rough start here for BDD, who's trying to prove something here on this champion that he's so known for. Very harmful to your reputation and probably your mental state if you lose on the Zed in this game.
Have to remember, BDD is a very young player. His interview, had a solo interview with the double MVP 2 days ago, was very mature and level-headed, but he's 17 years, and I believe now would have been 2 days on his debut, so 17 years and 4 days. Would definitely have had input on this Zed lock. And maybe the brash overconfidence of youth will cost CJ Entus, because until they start rotating lanes, not going to find much fun in the mid lane against very soon to be Sunfire Cape Mountain.
Yeah, and you know, being that young, you're much more susceptible to be affected negatively mentally, you know, in these losses if it should come out. My time on Team Liquid, Tardoc and Lorlo both being 17 years old, I've seen what that could do to somebody when they have a couple losses.
You can understand them thinking mentally, I don't want to play the Zed again.
Yeah.
So the Azir again. Played 2 games of Azir, won the first one confidently, lost the last game, and now moves away to a much more risky proposition in a matchup that was either going to be awful or terrible. And yeah, not happy times for BDD.
Well, happy times at all. Mad Life on the roam up here, but he gets spotted out by several wards. Looks like Secret's going to go ahead and meet him up here in the river.
Worth noting that if BDD has no pressure on the map, if Sassen runs this lane, it's going to be harder for Bubbling to stack up the Devourer as Kindred. It once again is Devourer Kindred. We're going to have to stop being excited about that, because it has been the standard pick all the way through this week of Champions.
So far, nothing really happening, just that one kill. You can see the gold really just separating them from that first blood. Flawless and Soldo setting up for a dive on BDD, really just wanting to abuse him, but Bubbling and Mad Life are waiting in the wings. This could be quite devastating for either side. They go into BDD, that's going to be the giant Frozen Tomb coming down. Now 4 members in here, the Lamb Spike does get dropped, so they're staying alive. BDD on the retreat, Sassen taking this turret up, has to flash away. Nobody going to die on either side, but several ultimates and cooldowns used by both sides.
Really smart play from CJ. They had the ward towards the left. You can see it on your minimap, so they knew what was coming. They couldn't actually get a kill out of it, but was really nice, clean play. Lissandra committed, and Tara gets to push in the minion wave, get a bit of CS. CJ won because we saw more resources put in by Spenu for no result.
Yeah, a lot of time away from their lanes as well for that one. Good play by CJ. Seeing that coming through from Spenu and just completely countering it. Now Gold has evened up a pretty decent amount, and that helped BDD get ahead. 82 to 64 CS. Substantial, but he is still against a Sunfire Cape Malphite in that mid lane.
Let's see, CSing on mid lane Malphite. Not that simple. Even though he's had lane control, 20 CS behind. Maybe it'll be enough just to farm up. Try not to die again, and again, look for the split push, because Lissandra very clearly going to be able to get into Rod of Ages. Target for Zed, at least for now.
He does have the Hex Drinker finish, so will help him mitigate a bit of that damage that he'll be taking out from multiple members.
It does the double duty. That's another good thing from the perspective of BDD, is it's magic damage from all 3 of the top side members of Spenu, with Elise jungle as well, so can build into more. One of the big reasons we're seeing champions like Varus in the meta, just because the more Malmort is completed now, gives you such a burst of stats when the shield is popped, and builds so nicely out of the Serrated Derp with early armor penetration. So in a lot of ways, it's very desirable. It feels good when you can build more, and you'll play a champion like Varus sometimes and feel sad when you're against an all-AD team, just because you can't fit in one of the most cost-effective and high-statted items for an AD champion.
Yep. You can see, though, the lane swap has come in here, which would be very advantageous for CJ if it wasn't about to just get out-rotated. You see Malphite just roaming straight back up to that top side of the map. Flawless spotting a ward at the same time will clear it out. But that's just going to send Soul straight back into the mid lane so they can stay against that Lulu, who he is definitely optimizing for.
It's going to be a bit of predictability to play from Spender, because every time BDD changes lane, you can see there's going to be a train following him. All 3 of Soul, Flawless, and Sassen are on hold down BDD duty. that means that the jungle pathing of Flawless is predictable. It's going to be around this Zed pick. So knowing that information, I want to see CJ make plays in the duo lane because we're not going to see any attention from Spenu.
You can see they're going for this first dragon of the game right now. Should be able to take this one. Elise just now entering the mid lane. No vision whatsoever over this dragon pit for Spenu. So that's going to be first dragon of the game coming in here for CJ. Nice change off that last game.
If CJ are on point here, you use the Zed as the rabbit in the hat. You use him as the magician's trick just because everyone is focused. Everyone in this audience, everyone watching at home, BDD finally has that Zed. But if BDD is finding farm and everything is being used to hold him down, a lot can happen elsewhere on the map. It's the Singed effect. If everyone's chasing Singed, everyone else is benefiting. And if everyone's changing Zed, it's going to work out for CJ.
Yeah, it's just a game of sleight of hand for them. They have to watch the hand that is BDD, be distracted by it, while CJ slips out of the other pocket.
And look, if he was behind in CS, he was 20 CS behind a Malphite, different story. Because he's the one making the aggressive moves and the rotations are coming second and slowly by Spenu, he's still got that 20 CS advantage over his direct lane opponent.
Yep, you can see the swap coming right back in, and Tara going to zip his way up to the top side to try to match Malphite, but it's really just going to be a game of cat and mouse. You can already see him recalling.
Spenu are losing more from every trade. They've already lost the Dragon. They're losing a couple of CS as well.
Yep.
CJ are winning, even though it looks very comical on paper.
Something's definitely very comical because Greencasters have the audience just cracking up right now.
Surprised to see the Giants belt second. You usually expect to see Frozen Heart. It's a very obvious itemization choice for Sarsen. Now he's going to have a low mana pool, only 550. All his abilities approaching 100 mana. Sounds like he's going to have one rotation of spells and nothing else because he doesn't have the cooldown reduction that Malphite craves in a team fight.
Yeah. We'll have to see if he's going to complete something with this Giant spell or if he's just buying it for now to buffer his passive shield.
All Giant's Belt offers a Malphite. Obviously, it builds into nice armor items, but all the Giant's Belt purchase offers is more sturdiness against an all-in from Zed at this point in the game.
Yeah, I completely agree. The Frozen Heart definitely should be something that Sarsen goes for in the very near future.
You're against Lulu Kindred Zed. Corki, of course, attack speed is a factor, but not as critical to the kit. That's screaming Frozen Heart to me.
Yeah. Madlife coming up here to the top side, pushing Soul back toward his tier 2 as BDD applies a little bit of pressure to this tier 2. Meanwhile, bot lane completely wide open for Nuclear and Secret if they want to go for that tower. Looks like they're going to. It's already down to half HP, so they'll make pretty quick work of that one. BDD doing what he can to get through this one.
He'll answer the turret. There's no way for there to be any pressure from Spenu on the top side of the map, so should also be a Rift Herald. And once again, global trade happens. No control on the bot side for CJ, so they give up this outer turret. In the top side of the map, they get the turret and a Rift Herald with no dragon to punish them.
Yeah, meanwhile, Spenu are going for some pressure in this mid lane. Tower down to about half HP. Looks like they realize now with Mad Life, a dive would be a little bit too dangerous, so they go ahead and back off. Steal a little bit for the jungle, but we're taking down maybe for this tier 2 tower.
You said it best with the term sleight of hand. That seems to be how CJ have used BDD on this set, and so far a dragon and a Rift Herald has the advantage. Not reflected in the gold, but making the most of what has been an amusing game of lane swaps.
Yeah. You can see, though, Nuclear getting a bit of a lead, of course, ahead of Kramer. Just pretty much being equalized by that one. Oh, Flash, pulverized, knocks Flawless back. Where can he go? Flashes into the pit, but Madlife roaming around the side. Untara flashes the wall, gets the kill. One on the board for CJ.
And now they're putting power back into the bot lane, because guess what? Dragon's going to be respawning just over 2 minutes. They want to clear out any pinks and get to the control there. Fans just really amused by all the rotations in this early game. This is definitely one of those solo queue games where I've got the counter pick and you just keep swapping and swapping.
No, I can't fight him. Swap with me.
We've already talked a lot about parlor games in our discussion of this early game. It feels a bit like whack-a-mole at this point.
Yeah, basically.
That mole is BDD, to be clear.
Keeps popping around. If you can't get him, all you're going to lose are your tickets.
So far, Spenu have lost a dragon,
Or tokens.
a Rift Herald, and now control around a second dragon.
Yeah.
They are the one being run around, even though they're probably thinking, okay, we're keeping the Zed down, he has no kills. It's the other objectives around the map that really tell the story.
Yep. And with that, Kramer taking down that tier 1 bot tower. Gets himself a nice chunk of gold. He should be able to go back and get his boots and maybe another item towards that Infinity Edge that he's definitely going to be seeking. You can see a Hex Trick come out from him. Sense. Multiple AP threats in the enemy team. Madlife running forward here. Maybe trying to find something. The Culling comes across. Nuclear takes a lot of damage from those shurikens from BDD. They're going to have to back off. Kramer did pick up the package. Likely not going to be able to find any use for it, at least not in the next 20 seconds or so.
First time Spin have got a big advantage. They do take out a mid lane turret. We've seen these turrets lasting 35 minutes this week, so important to take down that objective. Now suddenly CJ has less options when it comes to contesting the second dragon, because the minion wave is going to be pushed much more aggressively towards their inner turret. You can get those lane wards down as well for a potential flank. Souls on Lissandra. They do have teleport flank options. Lissandra Malphite, you get a multi-man Lissandra W. The fight's coming to you from Spenu.
Yeah. Well, they do take down that mid tier 1. The gold is all but even, so they gain a bit of ground objectively on the map with that tower being knocked down, but overall, gold staying very close and slightly ahead for CJ.
The other person who's been the big winner with everyone shadowing BDD has been Bubbling, who has picked up the Serrated Devourer 18 minutes into the game. Lots of farming, has had very little lane impact, 15 CS ahead of his opponent.
Yep. Madlife gets a headbutt pulverized. Sasson coming around from the sidelines. They have to show a lot of respect for that Malphite ultimate. Bubbling getting some good vision control as that second dragon of the game has spawned. Question is anybody going to instigate it, or is it just going to be a vision war? It looks like it might be the latter for the time being.
Zed is on the split push, so is Soul, but Zed is split pushing without teleport next to the objective that he wants to get. So CJ once again have set up their line
Soul's
as well.
TP here. Question is, can he make a play? Dragon already down below half HP. Bubbling is here, jumps into the pit. Going to try to smite this one away. Can he get it? It's going to be actually Kramer confirming this one. And CJ, more than likely, with that objective pickup, going to just go ahead and back off. Not in much of a position to jump in.
Poor teleport from Soul.
Have to be careful here. Here comes Sasson. Does not get the knockup on Kramer, but Bubbling might go down. Lamb's Spike does get burned out. Can he flash anywhere? Gets the Wild Growth as well. Flashes over the wall, but Secret and Sasson are right there. Culling comes across. Nuclear finds the kill. Kramer doing what he can to save Untara's life, but it's not going to happen. A double kill coming out for the Lucian, and 2 more kills on the board for Spenu.
2 nice picks, not respecting the Malphite ultimate. BDD had already entered lane and bot side, so no way he could have been involved. Very nice, decisive initiation from Malphite. They're going to get a minimum an inner turret for this.
Yep, really good play by Spenu. Losing out on the Dragon and making the most of it. BDD gets a bit of damage on the Secret, but can't really threaten his life as there's just too many members of Spenu waiting beside him. So they will go ahead and take down tier 2. 2 towers up now, and the gold lead in their favor by 2,000.
Sasson this game is all about the Malphite ultimate. That's not cooldown reductions building, but movement speed. To be able to hit ults like this, was in the right position. Very nice chain onto Bubbling. They couldn't quite burst him down, but BDD, you can see on the minimap, was pushing up the wave. He was starting the split push. He was surprised that his team got caught out. Another nice Glacial Fissure. Just nowhere for Untara to go. 2 kills, an objective. Nice play from Spenu.
Yeah. A little bit of a botched Valkyrie there from Kramer as well. Didn't quite get himself out of harm's way. Would have been considerably healthier if he'd been able to dodge that one out. Also, Bubbling just nowhere to go with that flash. I suppose he could have jumped toward BDD, but no one would have chased. But speaking of Chase onto Secret, who leaps away. Flash pulverized from Madlife. Boots Secret back. He will go down. Now Flawless on the run. The rappel has been used. Has to flash over into the Krug pit. Bubbling on the chase, but not going to be able to follow up. But a nice return pick here from CJ after that last fight.
Madlife once again, Flash Pulverize. Been doing that for 4 years now. Keeps doing it. Very clean from Madlife on the Alistar, but nothing to take with that pick. Just go back to pushing up the waves, getting split pushing where they want. At this point, you probably want Zed in the top lane just because he can collapse onto Baron, and there's no dragon on the map for another 3.5 minutes.
Yep. Or CJ going to have to go and answer this giant wave that's been building up in the bot lane. Kramer, though, being pinched on by Sasson and Flawless. Or not Flawless, by Soul. Tara goes down here to clear out this wave, however, keeping that tier 2 safe for the time being. Kramer gets his buff in the end. Looks like BDD's going to get some farm in the mid lane.
The second item, Ghost Blade, as far as we can tell from BDD. So looking pretty standard. No sign of the Duskblade.
Yeah, we can see Sassen now starting to pick up a little bit of magic resistance as well with that null magic mantle. Or the, yeah. Null magic.
I think Duskblade of Drekthar is an underappreciated item. I actually think that people look too much at the passive and their conception of, if it wasn't active, this item would be overpowered. And it certainly would. But the active is the only thing that keeps it in line, because you have to remember, it builds really well. It gives you armor penetration, movement speed, and 75 flat AD, the most flat AD of any item. Has 99% efficiency in terms of what you're paying for, and then the passive is basically a bonus.
Yeah.
And when you're Zed, who needs to be rotating around these lanes, all those stats are attractive. If you get value out of the passive, wonderful. If you don't, it's still a good purchase.
Yes, it is. You see, though, CJ grouping up his full 5 in this mid lane, trying to get some damage onto this tower. Kramer using those Trinity Force auto attacks to get as much damage as possible. Soul starts pinching up from the river, but realizes there's not going to be too much of a fight, so he goes straight back down to that bot lane. Teleport's going to be available in about 20-25 seconds for him, so if something does break out in the near future, he will be able to join his team.
And CJ are deathly afraid of the teleport from Soul. Once again, any multi-man Lissandra R's or W's will lead to a guaranteed Malphite initiation, especially with the movement speed that Sassen has now with the build that he's chosen to go for. It did turn the second giant spell into a dead man's plate. Still no sign of any cooldown reduction, so it's burst down these squishy members from CJ and then kind of walk around for this Malphite.
Right now, so far, it's been working out. Still a gold lead here for Spenu. Too significant, though, as we are encroaching on the 25-minute mark. We can see Dragon is going to be spawning in 1 minute and 10 seconds. Would be the third of the game for CJ. If they can pick that up, likely going to be contested by Spenu, because they want to get that 6% for their own and stop CJ from getting towards that 20% damage reduction or under towers.
Crucially, after losing that skirmish, CJ haven't had enough map pressure to actually put or clear any wards around Dragon, so they're going to try and push up now. That's why you see Zed grouping. More longswords coming in. I believe that is close to the 10th longsword in this build. Let's think about it. 3 longswords in Maw, 4 in Ghostblade. That's 9 longswords, all the swords from BDD. They're trying to clear out as much pressure as possible, but Soul's going to go back. Remember, home guards are now active. Look for Lissandra to be the big story. If she gets the multi-man CC, world of Wombo coming from Spenu.
Yeah, they could be one giant Lissandra play away from their first set win.
Surprising, they haven't got enough deep vision to be confident enough for Soul to find a teleport ward, so calling him in.
I'm just going to bring him in and maybe just have a full-on 5v5 in and around this mid lane. Madlife sweeping, trying to clear as much vision as possible. It looks like they're going to try to trade this Dragon for the inhibitor tower in the mid lane.
It's a good call from Spenu.
Very good call indeed. The Dragon just now falling. The late recalls, the tower is at least going to fall. I think they have more than enough damage to burn through this inhibitor. CJ losing a lot off of that pickup.
BD walking in. They do spot him with their flank wards. Mid lane inhibitor taken best objective control. So best objective play by Spenu all year.
Absolutely. I don't think that CJ has much option to chase in here.
Looking for a pinch.
Yeah, they are looking for it. Madlife's coming around the sidelines. Let's see if he can find anything. Goes in. It's a 4-man pulverize. BDD goes in. Who is he going to jump on? It's going to be Nuclear in the backside, but he gets blown up immediately. The Frozen Tomb finding the kill. Nuclear is not going to die off of that either. So Spenu, with fantastic targeting and great shot calling, walk away with some massive objectives.
CJ just don't have the sort of comp that can capitalize on the 4-man pulverize. No one else was close enough. Bubbling was walking in. Wild Growth not even used onto BDD. There's just really little they can do because they don't have engage. Once again, they're looking for the split push. They're looking for the siege. Neither of them available, but that doesn't take away from what was a beautiful headbutt, canceling the headbutt animation into Flash. It's just who is going in with Madlife? The answer was no one.
Yeah, not at all. BDD exhausted before he even hit the death mark. Just goes ahead and gets destroyed.
Team fights are not what CJ has picked for with the Zed. So the fact that they were forced into one, once again, is credit to Spenu with a really smart force down the mid lane. Third Dragon for Inhibitor. I'll take that if I'm Spenu.
Yep, and just great target priority as well. They know as soon as that Death Mark comes out, just unstoppable force straight into Frozen Tomb. And BDD just cannot do a thing about it. You can see now Null Magic Mantle picked up for him as he tries to get toward that QSS. So he can get out of that tomb faster, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to help him out in that situation. Just so much damage coming through instantly by Spenu.
Now under turret, now not exerting any map pressure. Kramer is going to be clearing waves in mid. Expect Spenu to spend the next few minutes just ensuring that if there are any wards near Baron, they're going to be completely cleared out, baiting that objective. And then guess what, guys? Have I got a story for you? Would you like to face check Lissandra, Elise, Malphite, Braum around Baron with no wards?
No,
Exactly.
not really.
So,
Just like I don't want to face check Braum at level 1.
nope. Rocks Tigers, even they were guilty of that.
Everybody's got at least one mistake, I'll say.
Only two
Since
blue
there's-
trinkets, both of them on
What
cooldown.
were you
Spenu
saying
know
about
that.
What were you saying about face checks here?
Well, Malphite, sorry, Alistair's probably the one champion that is accepted in that role.
I don't know. There's going to be a TP from the backside here from Soul. Coming in with the home guards. Can he
Deep
find a
TP.
target? He's getting cut off by Antara. Follows the glacial path. Madlight by himself. Huge burst on the nuclear by Kramer. CJ might be able to turn this fight. Chunking away at Secret. Down to half HP. Has to leap to Flawless. Still takes a bit of damage. The recalls come through from Spenu. CJ, no, they're not going to be able to make any plays.
Not sure about that move from Spenu. They knew where they had exclusive vision, but took a bet that there wasn't defensive vision from CJ in their own jungle. The one spot they could actually get access to, which was punished. Nuclear got chunked out, so they're going to have to rinse and repeat, try something different. And see what they were going for, but the chance of that coming off are very, very low.
Yeah, and now TP advantage over to CJ with Untara still being up. As really, CJ's been so close to their base that they haven't been able to teleport anywhere.
BDD cannot cross the river. No way for him to put on map pressure. Even though he's on the right side, needs to be on the side where the major objective they want to compete for is.
Can't cross the river. He's a ring wraith, I guess?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. CJ do pick up the Rift Scuttler, so at least do get some permanent vision in an area where previously they've been denied the ability to place wards.
Super Creep's still crashing into that mid lane. Not for too much longer, if I'm correct. It should be spawning just a minute and a half or two here. But now this is pretty much all of Spenu playing up by this Baron. Lissandra as well right there. They're just going to start it. They are spotted by the Scuttle Crab, of course. The question is CJ tough enough to actually fight this?
Spenu does not have good Baron damage at all. Only Nuclear is doing any relevant damage to Baron, so very hard for them to bait this Baron.
They're going straight back into it. Kramer clearing out that mid lane, pressuring on the tower.
CJ have to be so careful with their position. No one can group. If two threats group, they will be instantly deleted by Assassin's initiation.
Yeah, you can see this is just CJ just bouncing back and forth between this Baron. They're going to get a turret for it, so this is good hovering by them. So Spenu try to threaten the Baron, but lose an objective for it.
From a Spenu perspective, they can rinse and repeat this bait because they have the likes of Malphite, Braum, and Flawless on this, at least, I guess to a lesser extent, but specifically Malphite. As long as he's the one tanking Baron, you can peel off it for days because he's hardly losing his passive, tanking up the Baron. But nice play from CJ, keeping their heads. Still pretty competitive, only 1,500 gold between the two teams.
Yeah, but
Just so difficult to find a place where BDD can actually be effective on the set.
there's just so much Wombo potential as we've seen from Spenu. Granted, it's only been on, one or two targets here, but CJ trying to keep it as close as possible, and now Dragon spawning in 10 seconds. This is going to be the fourth of the game. If CJ could confirm this kill, it'd be quite good for them, but of course that 6% stat would be so valuable for Spenu at this point.
But CJ using it once again. Sleight of hand's been the story. They're going for this inner turret.
Yeah, but the question is, can they exit together? Kramer, of course, does have the package available to him.
And
So they're all just roaming down, so they should be able to get out of this one alive. Just have to be careful of this pinch in.
Oh, that crit.
Yep, Flawless taking a bit of damage. Will get sustained back up very slightly.
Trend of the Aegis proccing on the cannon minion.
Yeah, and now this is going to be Spenu going straight back down toward this Dragon. They should be able to take this down with relative ease as Nuclear is quite powerful. So CJ not going to be able to steal this one away. They go on to Soul, who has that Frozen Tomb available, of course. So far, Mad Life just taking up the front line, has to pop the ultimate, gets stunned by those concussive blows, straight into a Cocoon, taking a hell of a lot of damage. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to get out of this one, has to flash the wall, goes back in, gets a triple knock-up. It's not going to be enough, though. The crits come through from Nuclear, and they take him down. And just like that, CJ's in such a precarious spot as Spenu could still just threaten this Baron.
CJ, they only have Alistar as a frontline. They did not want to use
Oh,
Wild
that's the
Growth on him.
Malphite ultimate. Only catches Bubbling. Lamson Spike comes down to keep him alive. Kramer, though, the Frozen Tomb comes in, tries to burst down Sasin, but all too late. Bubbling does fall. Nuclear finds the kill. Culling comes across. Kramer will live, but takes a hell of a lot of damage. CJ with 2 members down, there's not a whole lot that they can do.
I know it feels bad to use the Wild Growth on your support Alistar, but he's your sole frontliner. If he dies, basically Sasin is always ready for the flash ult because there's no way for that 4-man unit to deal with the tanky frontline and Nuclear, the safest AD carry in the backline. So they just left Mad Life to die, and the rest of the team, it's Lulu and 3 damage dealers.
Yeah, let's see
Very
what
little
we
they
got
could
again.
do. But this is knowing there's no frontline, just instant flash ultimate. Bubbling too slow on the flash as far as I can tell. Did he have it available? He did. Does have the Lamps Respite, so he bought some time, but now we can see on our screens that Speno has started Baron. CJ are there though.
Yeah, Mad Life back up. Trying to play in the
Baron at
forefront of this
3,000.
one. Yeah, the Baron's getting ready to go down. Looks like it's just going to go ahead and fall. Flawless confirms it. Speno are looking like they might have the means to close out this set.
CJ were not in position. Lulu was actually in base as that Baron was being finished. See a lot of minions pushing from the CJ side, but going to be easily cleared out by Speno. With Baron buff now, the wave clear for CJ is not looking too great. Lulu's not going to be able to do much against those Baron buff minions, and there isn't even a turret in mid to deal with, so expect Speno to start that march through mid and get that inhibitor.
Yeah, and the question is, if you're CJ, what do you do? What is going through your head right now as far as what your win conditions are? What do you keep telling yourself in this instance?
Grouping is not your friend. You've picked the Zed to impact the map, but with both objectives down and Zed with no teleport, he's forced to group with the team. You need to find a way to kill Nuclear, but Nuclear has the overshield from the lifesteal. He's actually gone the safest possible Lucian build because he does not want to be the one who dies to Zed. Overshield from Bloodthirst and no Infinity Edge. Very defensive build. Can easily get away from Zed and will have everyone else peeling for him secret, keeping that exhaust for the Zed as well. So killing Nuclear, suddenly you've got burst damage and then nothing on the side of Speno, especially with no cooldown reduction on either their top or their mid laner. But killing Nuclear is going to be a real ask when, from the Bloodthirster, you can tell he's playing super defensive.
Yeah. 2 to 6. Down by still just a few thousand gold, but CJ, it feels like so much more. Just how little they can do right now in this match.
Worth noting that taking this inhibitor is going to be difficult in the 5v5. They have short range on most of their champions, so can't really poke up. And Malphite can get some autos in, but that's not too outrageous.
Yeah, you land one crucial Cocoon, however. Malphite ultimate to follow up. You take one of the damage dealers out from CJ. Could very well pile on top of that inhibitor.
CJ needs time. If you finish one of the Last Whisper upgrades, you get a lot of value. There's a lot of bonus armor specifically on this team. Double Randuins, Zonias, and of course Malphite. Enough said. So a lot of value in getting Last Whisper, but no one with a Last Whisper despite having triple AD.
Yeah, the Lord Dominix would certainly be quite good.
I mean, even Last Whisper buffed up to 35% on a recent patch would be something. They have nothing.
Yep. Sasin just tanking up in this front line. They can't even get through his shield right now. Mad Life doing what he can to dance around the center. Gets caught by the Cocoon. It's not gonna
Baron
take too
buff
much
duration
damage,
at the moment has gotten nothing to spend.
though. Yeah. Which is quite good for CJ, but they still have to be so cautious. Hovering around this inhibitor, Mad Life gets caught yet again. Couple shurikens go over the wall. Take a little bit of damage or health off of Soul here. And this is CJ doing well to buy some time for themselves.
Without Flash on Sasin, they feel like they don't have the guaranteed initiate with the Unstoppable Force. So far, this Baron has achieved absolutely nothing for Speno.
Yep, and it looks like it might just expire. Yep, there it is. Goes away before they can really accomplish anything. So, not a very good Baron play from Spenu. Still nets them that gold, of course, but without being able to take any objectives, it's not the best for your team. Just buys CJ more time to get more items and scale up.
Really think we need to see Last Whisper on at least Bubbling and BDD. Again, I'm not even talking about the Lord Dominus Regard, which obviously be wonderful, but just get that Last Whisper.
Yeah.
Corki you can understand. He gets magic damage crits out of the Infinity Edge. Maybe that's a way to do damage, so physical damage there is fine, but specifically Bubbling, most of his damage is going to be Seder Devourer. Most of his damage is going to be the current health damage. Very high health members. You've got health stacking from 3 members of Spenu, but it's not going to really... 5% reduced by the armor that's going across the board for Spenu is going to be reduced to basically nothing.
Yep.
When it comes to the current health damage of the Kindred passive.
You can see the Mercurial Scimitar has been finished by Nuclear. There's that much more damage in his pocket, as well as that QSS active. 4.3 thousand separating these teams right now. BDD just trying to farm up as much as possible.
So let's go to the other side of the coin. We talked about what CJ needed to get back into the game. Honestly, it's a reprieve, which they got with this Baron. The issue for Spenu was they had teleport on Soul, and yet they all grouped mid, tried to force down an inhibitor that was going to be very difficult to pick up. They never pushed up their minion waves, and this has been something that's been on display from Spenu all season. Very poor playing with the 6-man and the minion waves. Just get a Zerot portal on Sarsen and start something up, because otherwise you're just fishing for a fight. Spenu often lose those.
Yeah, well, they've been winning the last few, and right now CJ is looking for one of their own. Dragon has been engaged. This is going to be the 5th of the game. Would be 4th for CJ if they can secure this one. Bubbling is in the pit. The Dragon's resetting, however. Corki trying to chunk out as much as he possibly can. No one trying to group up, so Sarsen does not have a juicy target. Bubbling has exited. Double knock up there. Secret almost goes down. Gets away with a sliver of HP back into the Dragon Pit. That's going to be the second confirmed by Spenu. Do they back off or do they stick around? That's going to be engaged. Only Mad Life gets knocked up, however. Mad Life goes back in, gets the double pulverize, and now the health bars are just absolutely melting. Flawless being taken so low, but all of CJ is just devastatingly low here. Soul will fall. Untara finds the kill, and it looks like that's going to be the only person going down in that entire fight.
The reaction flashes from CJ were outstanding. They all
Good Lord.
kited back as 5. Focused fire. CJ played that fight as well as we've seen all year. Really nicely done. But they get the absolute minimum. They don't get the Dragon. They get a single kill. They all have to recall. Played perfectly. And now with no flashes available at all, Spenu's next initiation will be so much more reliable. Sarsen thought he had the initiation with the ult. But the fact that it only hit Mad Life was what allowed CJ to turn this around. Triple flash instantly.
And this was just a great follow by Mad Life. I wasn't expecting to go right back in like that. Had me tripping over my words because of this engagement. Miraculously, all of CJ makes it out alive.
CJ all fight in the land strike, get that kill onto Soul, but nothing else. The next fight, if it occurs in the next 4 minutes, those flashes won't be up, and you won't have the same outplay potential from CJ.
Yeah, that's very true, but we see they're trying to use that fight, the confidence bolster that they got to push back in onto this tier 2, which they are going to get for themselves.
Was 40 minutes in. Lissandra only just respawned. Malphite was in base, just looking for a shopping purchase.
Yeah, but the big thing here now is Baron spawning in just 20 seconds. That could make or break the game for either side.
If Spenu had set up the minions any time previous to now, they'd be further ahead than they are. They'd at least be knocking on a second inhibitor turret. They've had this inhibitor up, remember, for what, 15 minutes now since it first respawned? And they haven't been able to find a way to get to it just because the comp, it's Malphite mid. You're not going to be able to have any real ability to push in this CJ lineup.
Yep. Kramer finally looking like he can deal a decent amount of damage to Sarsen on this Malphite.
Going to be Black Cleaver from BDD, so going to try and shred for his mates.
Yep. Question is, can he get to that point before this fight breaks out at the Baron Pit?
There's lots of what ifs. Can they finish the Black Cleaver? Can we find gold on Bubbling?
Can they win
for
the
a
game?
Last Whisper? Can they allow flashes to be up on the side of CJ before they fight again? Because again, they will be polar opposites when they don't have the flashes.
Yeah, this is Spenu just pushing straight down this mid lane. They're going to go for the open inhibitor.
Worked pretty well last time.
Yeah, and I don't think that CJ can really afford to give that up, so they're trying to pile back into the base here, going through the side gate.
Funneling in one by one, but for now they're okay.
They get here in time.
But this is the issue. When they do have a 5-man formation in front of this inhibitor, there's no way for Spenu to get to that inhibitor without winning a fight, without committing with their Malphite. Otherwise they'll just be poked away. So either go for them when they walk through that side gate, or don't make that move, because it's not accomplishing anything from Spenu.
Certainly is not. Now Spenu just running around the map together. right back into this Tier 2 mid-section where we began. Still just 3,000 separating these teams at 41 minutes. One fight just wins the game for either side.
Sassen has flash, and still no one on CJ does. So Sassen needs to make the hero initiate.
Kramer trying to chip out as much as he can. Glacial Path will not be followed by Soul. So CJ's peeling back a little bit. Getting some good ward dominance around that Baron pit.
For wards for potential flank from Soul. None clear, and Soul just goes for the wave clear and bar.
Yep.
Once again, the minion wave's not been pushed up by Spinner.
Quite just yet. Secret throws up Unbreakable, trying to mitigate that damage. Will block the majority of it. Soul just now arriving at the wave, should be able to clear this out. CJ are seeing him. They're confident that there's not too many wards. They know there's one on the other side of the pit. They've started up this Baron, however.
It's a blue trinket ward. He can't teleport to that.
That's very true. I only saw it on the minimap, but he can teleport to that one right there. But CJ have already peeled off of the Baron.
It's a really poor teleport. Wasn't in base, wasn't going to get the home guard buff. So again, it's just a positioning teleport. They gain nothing from it.
Yeah, whether it was the intent or not, it's a great play by CJ. Getting rid of that cooldown. Untara, of course, does have his. So suddenly they have that advantage for themselves.
The Spenu comp, Malphite mid accepted, is something we'd expect out of the Rocks Tigers. A lot of initiate, a lot of catch, a lot of engage.
Yeah.
The difference is they play the map so poorly that it's either get that flash all in at a team fight or lose because they don't have minion waves pushing for them in a way that actually gets them multiple advantages. They're so steadfast on winning a team fight where if they're not offered a team fight, eventually CJ will have Black Cleaver that's now finished just now on BDD, the Last Whispers, 6 damage items on high damage dealers, and even Sassen, okay, he won't be cut through like butter, will be someone that can be taken down with Focus Fire.
Yep. You see straight back into this mid inhibitor yet again. They try to pressure it out, but they just cannot get in range of this. The Corki Rockets starting to do so much damage to the less tanky members of Spenu. Flawless and Soul, with all of their HP and stats, are just taking a lot from that Corki.
Look at bottom lane. These are the minions once again. Soul was in bottom lane. He could have left that lane better than he was, but he went for the panic all-in teleport. Lost the teleport, didn't push up the wave very well. Gonna go back. They have achieved nothing ever since their smart rotation down mid that we commended them for, because there seems to be holes in their other facets of their macro play.
CJ just walking straight back over toward this Baron. The teleport coming out from Untara already. Looks like they're just going to clear the pit. No.
To be clear, we talked earlier about how Spenu, they can't really bait the Baron effectively because they have very low Baron damage. CJ have outstanding Baron damage.
Yes, absolutely.
You give them any time around Baron and they will rush it down.
Yeah, but very interesting TP there by Untara. Dragon has spawns to be third for Spenu, fourth again for CJ Entus if they can find this for themselves. But they really have to respect the damage from Kramer. He's chunking them out. Looks like they're just going to go ahead and stick to this. I don't think CJ is going to contest for the steal. They're not going to. So third Dragon going over to Spenu. Good decision. You don't want to lose that fight and have it cost you the game just for a third Dragon.
The other option CJ had was to walk towards Baron, but they didn't have exclusive vision in the area, so they couldn't effectively bait it.
Yep.
They went for maybe a lucky rocket steal. But
Well, now they're going to try giving Spinu a taste of their own medicine, push straight up this mid lane and try to pressure them off this tower.
What's the Malphite?
Yeah, this is the collapser on the back side. Kramer already uses the Valkyrie. Nice double pulverize. Sassen getting burst out. Soul goes in though. The Frozen Tomb down onto the Corki. That's going to be the death mark coming in onto Sassen. Can he die? Looks like he will. BDD finds a double kill. Can he get more? It's the triple kill. Can he find the Penta? Goes on to Secret, who dashes away. The Unbreakable comes through. Flawless on the side. Can he kill him? There's nowhere to go. Goes back to the Corki. He goes down. Triple for BDD in the end. That could just be the game for CJ Entus.
CJ Entus' team fighting is outstanding. Sassen is losing his mind in the booth. They have let this game slip through their fingers again. How many times can we say it for Spenu Sonic Boom? Out of nowhere, 60-second death time is mean. This game's over.
That is a heartbreaker for Spenu. So close to getting their first series win. Now a life in shy. And CJ with the miraculous comeback. It didn't look like they could win, but at 2-1 with some great play in that last team fight, CJ Entis take down Spenu.
An outstanding game from CJ Entis of patience. They took the little advantages in the early game they got with all the lane swaps, and then that final team fight, Kramer played out of his mind. How he lived for as long as he did, and the team kited back. This was another team fight from Spenu where two people go in trying to get that all-important pick onto Kramer. None were forthcoming, and CJ Entis steal one that looked so hard for them to pick up the moment we saw these drafts complete.
Just an absolute heartbreaker. The fans of CJ losing their minds in the audience. I think I see some tears. Definitely some exasperated sighs being pushed out there, but close one there for CJ Entis, barely nosing out ahead in that. And you can see they don't even necessarily look happy that they won that. BDD likely a little upset with his first Zed performance here in the LCK.
If you're a Spenu player, you really don't want to look forward to that team dinner later because they had this game. They had so many great options. If they just were smarter about the macro play, they made that one great move down mid lane, best move they've made all year. If they could have piggybacked off that and done some smart minion wave pushing and actually just not grouped as 5 around the inhibitor. Remember, they took that inhibitor once with that smart push. They never found a way to get it despite having a downed inhibitor turret for 30 minutes of the game.
Just great opening for CJ. They saw it and they took it. Fantastic performance in Spenu. They're going to have to go back to the drawing board. So close in those games, just not able to close out the series.
Every Spenu game comes down to this because they play the map so poorly that the game gets to 45 minutes, their 25-minute lead means nothing, and the death time is mean. They screw up the one fight, they lose the game. That shouldn't be the case. If you're a good team, you cultivate multiple different ways to win. When you only have one way to win, you lose one fight, you lose the game.
Yep, just hit that point. They gave CJ so much time to get ready and to just scale up that as soon as they got a grasp, they just took the whole game right there. And again, your MVP for that game is going to be BDD.
A bit generous, I think.
I agree.
He played the map smartly, but I think that was more the lane assignments. Who's to say whether that was his call, someone like Madlife or the team? But in the last fight, and in general in team fights, we said it when we saw Malphite on Lissandra, it's probably going to have to be a team fight Zed. If you noticed, every one of these fights, he was smart at playing around Kramer rather than diving the enemy once the game took a turn and Spenu got ahead.
Yeah.
Not much happening in this fight. This was when CJ were definitely on the back foot, but think of the future fights. Black Cleaver was very relevant because he was the one trying to shred people like Sarsen. Sarsen took so much damage in this last fight, and then watch BDD comes in at full health, and he's fighting around Sarsen. That's the big, around Kramer, sorry, that's the big story. Kramer's just micro in this fight was outstanding.
Yeah. I honestly, if it was up to me, I would actually give MVP over to Kramer, I think, specifically for his positioning in that fight. His burst damage was just so crucial for them winning that. But BDD as well, in that last fight, did play pretty damn well.
The whole team did.
Yeah.
They had the patience. They looked for their spots. They got quite a few in the early game. Mid-game certainly was taken away from them. It all came down to one fight, and CJ were just too strong for Spenu Sonic Boom.
Yep, well, we have to throw it over to an interview. We do have George here to do our translation for us. So, George, take it away.
All right, thank you. Hello, Champions fans. This is George here. So today's match between CJ and Spenu. CJ was able to beat Spenu 2-1. And today's MVP are Bubbling and BDD. All right, first of all, for Bubbling, it is your first MVP. How do you feel? I think I got it because all of my team members were able to, play very well. Thank you for cheering for me as well. And in the first round, you had a disappointing round, but it seems like you're playing a lot better than the last round. Was there any difference? First of all, our mid laner changed. It's not that I'm not trying to say something about the other guy, but originally mid lane and jungling can play a little bit more aggressively, so I can actually play in a various style. I know BDD with BDD you guys are called the Beaver comp. How was the chemistry today? Yes, I really like the chemistry today. With Sky, we had the bus comp.
네.
and I actually like that chemistry as well.
우리 링이라고 불리면서 굉장히 팬분들이 또 사랑스러운 별명을 지어주셨어요.
I know they gave you a nickname called Unini, but do you like it? Yes, it's an honor.
불러달라고 마지막으로 한 말씀 해주시죠.
So say something to the fans that are calling you Unini.
드리겠습니다. 감사합니다.
I will try my best and play better. Thank you.
축하드립니다. 자 이제 BDD 선수 만나보겠습니다.
All right, next will be BDD.
안녕하세요.
BDD 선수 정말 저도 이상하지 않을 것 같았던 3세트.
On the third set, it seems like you guys almost lost. How do you feel?
MVP 왜 빠진지 잘
I really don't know why I got the MVP
저는 쟁일 또 똥만 사가지고
because I didn't play very well,
얼떨떨이.
and I still can't believe that I got the MVP.
오늘 3세트는 조금 힘들었거든요.
I know you are well known for your Z plays, but how did you feel about the third set?
쫑병이 계속 이길 수 있다고.
I know our team members are actually trying to, cheer up
해줘가지고
and saying that we can win it.
해가지고
So I played very hard, and it seems like that actually helped a lot.
말파이트가 등장했잖아요.
I know the mid lane mouth fight came.
넓은 만큼 당황 좀 하지 않았나요?
So what was your feeling about that?
노틸밖에 예상을 못했는데
네네.
I
나와가지고
I didn't actually expect that, and I didn't like it.
그래도 마지막에
Like the pick.
대승 거두면서 이렇게 승리한
And the last team fight, it was a very big win for you.
이겼을 때
How did you feel after the team fight?
좀 제가 원래 미드 그냥 AP
I know
다른 챔프 했으면 좀 쉽게 불러.
I know if I picked the AP champ,
좀 힘들게 돼가지고
then it could have been an easier win, but it was a hard win, and I still can't believe I got the MVP.
플로들 후회하게 만들겠다라고 일침을.
So after last game, you said that you're not gonna disappoint all the fans that write about you, comment about you.
깜빡거리는 거
I read all the comments, and I saw couple of you said I always blink.
좀 스트레스 받고 긴장돼가지고
This is because it's a little bit stressful and I'm nervous. That's why I'm blinking.
댓글 달았던 그분들에게 한마디 하시자면.
All right, please say something to the commenters. Please stop writing about that.
네, 여러분.
That'll stop 'em.
나왔네요. 후회하게 만들겠다. 2탄이 등장했습니다. 오늘 CJ 팬분들.
And he's also said he's not going to disappoint the fans as well.
마지막으로 또 비비니 선수 CJ 사랑해주시는 팬들에게.
All right, please say something to the fans that love CJ.
더 호흡 잘 안 맞고 그러는데
I know first
응원해 주셔서 감사하고
games, first couple of games we have the chemistry issue, but thank you for still cheering for us.
보내주시거든요.
And I get a lot of cheerful messages.
이번에 생일 참여해 주신 분들 모두 감사하고
And thank you for all the fans that participated in my birthday event. Thank you again, and please keep cheering for me. All right, congratulations for CJ and the 2 MVPs. This is the last game. Take it away, guys.
네, 저는 다음 주 수요일 날 돌아오도록
Alrighty, well, take it away. We will. Thank you very much, George, for the translation. BD staying a little bit modest there, saying I'm a little bit nervous. I'm blinking. I can't stop because of it. But again, CJ going 2-1 against Spenu yet again.
Only match of the night, but a really exciting one. Overall, this means that CJ Entus actually jump above SK Telecom.
And
I
you
did
can
not
hear
think
it.
that is something you would say over the course of the season. Of course, it's worth noting that they've played 2 more matches. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of ifs and buts about it. But next week, there's some great games, starting the week off with Longzhu versus Kongdu Monster. But this one's pretty spicy. Jinair versus KT.
Yeah, so going to be contesting for that top 2 spot yet again, or the top 2 and 3 spot, I should say. And then it's going to be CJ Entus versus Samsung, and then Spenu Sonic Boom versus the Rocks Tigers. That's not going to be so much of an interesting game, but the one prior to that will be.
There's one with a lot of feeling the next day.
Yeah.
A Freak of Freaks, who of course, beat SK Telecom before they went to IEM, playing
2-0.
off. Then Jinair and Kongdu Monster.
Yeah, which, judging how Jin Air did earlier, it could be a bit of a closer game. And KT Rolster versus Longshu, this is where it really counts. And then Samsung versus Rocks Tigers, who are going to try their hand at taking down the top.
Hit it through your first week here.
It's a little rough, some bumps in the road here and there, but for the most part, I think it was pretty decent on the way through.
The little I've seen, the Champions fan have been receptive, so it's great to have you here. We're going to see more of Achilleos coming next week. We'll go to outro fast, because guess what? Korean Cast has got to get to IEM.
Yep, IEM is starting up, so we're going to say goodbye. We'll see you guys next week for Champions. Don't go anywhere. IEM just coming up. Have a good night.
prophet's dream for a prophet on the street. Now she's stronger than